GT Racing right now.
He's got traction, he's got everything outside of both of them! Maloney!
Oh, he's taking Anderson! Anderson's up top!
Oh my god! Oh! Big crash! Oh my goodness, half the field's gonna get rolled!
Six very close. These guys are going to want to make their way through the field very quickly.
Oh, there we go!
Oh no! That's massive! This is it! This is over! I can't believe this! Oh my god!
God, what?
Yeah, so we're using the VRS Direct Force Pro this year. We have a wheel adapter right here, so I'm using the rim I used last year, but the motor right here produces a lot of power, a lot of precision, and it helps me, just feel the car more, feel the car a lot quicker, especially, this week we're at Sonoma. I can feel it, when it hits the curbs, any little change in the car, the wheel reacts a lot quicker than your typical gear-driven or belt-driven wheel. For example, if you're on oval and the rear tires break loose, force feedback on it corrects a lot quicker than your typical wheels. There's no resistance pretty much as far as being able to make quick corrections on the wheel. So all that, paired with how precise the wheel itself is, it makes it to where it helps you as a driver, to find that extra hundredth or thousandths of a second. So when you're getting a direct drive wheel, especially the VRS wheel, it's heavy duty. It's got good weight to it, it's not a plastic toy. It feels like you can really beat up on it. A lot of people have issues with their plastic gear-driven wheels just kind of breaking after a couple years. This thing just feels like it can go forever. The forces are really strong where if you might have to let go of the wheel if you get into the wall. You can adjust all that with the settings on it and stuff, but the wheel itself doesn't play around. It's got way more strength than you could ever need, and that's what makes it good, that you can adjust that down to whatever the car needs. So initially you'll be able to get the controller box and the motor together, and eventually you will be able to add a rim onto that option. They'll also be including a button plate on it to put on the rim to have all sorts of different buttons and functionality. Also, pedals are coming, so that's a pretty big deal as well. Hasn't been covered too much, but the goal is to also have pedals to go along with the Direct Force Pro. So that's pretty exciting. The wheel feels good. It feels very much like a real world steering wheel. You just kind of feel like what you would imagine the car to feel like. A real steering wheel in a car is very smooth, it's very direct, very quick, and that's what this wheel feels like.
to SimSpeed TV. Virtual Racing School V8SCOPS is back 2 weeks in a row for the final round before endurance season begins. We're at the Detroit Grand Prix at Belle Isle, the fantastic Belle Isle Street Circuit, hosting 2 races tonight, one in Super Split 2, one in Split 1. It's a street sprint, 200 kilometers with 2 mandatory pit stops for Split 1. But of course, we've got to go to Split 2 first because they've got an out-and-out 24-lap sprint to go for with no required pit stops. I'm Reese Gardner. Joining me in the commentary box for this one is Ryan Jones. And Ryan, it's going to be an interesting one here at Belle Isle. You know, it's obviously a street circuit, very difficult to pass, but from the race last year, we saw that these drivers really have a good time around this street circuit. It's very bumpy, very difficult to drive around indeed.
Yeah, it's going to be a fantastic evening, isn't it, as we zoom in and take a look at where the Belle Isle Circuit is located in Detroit, not far from the Canadian-American border, and it is the OG street circuit to iRacing, completed street circuit to iRacing, of course, and it is on the little islands of Belle Isle, and there is the 14-corner layout, 13 proper corners, I'll call it. Race 14th corner on the circuit. Only really an issue on really worn tyres. The car can start to slide. A couple of big overtaking opportunities. You could maybe do it at turn 1, but the big ones, turn 3 and turn 7, will see the majority of the action.
Indeed they will, and you might see drivers flinging one up the inside of that very tight hairpin at turn 11 as well. Madison Down came a cropper there, making a pass on someone last year, and he had to redress the maneuver, which ultimately cost him a better result than he was looking for. And that double apex of 12 and 13 is going to be difficult too. There's no runoff on the outside of turn 13, and you've got to absolutely nail the throttle for a good run through turn 14 down to the start finish straight. Very short run to turn 1 as well, but they're very open corners, turn 1 and 2, so there's plenty of opportunity there to run side by side. But once again, the drivers are going to have to be careful, and turn 3 is the choke point. We're in split 2 at the moment, the final 5 minutes of the practice session here, and it is currently topped by Brian Borg, who's put in a fantastic 1 minute 28.6 in order to put himself up the top of the timesheets. But that may not necessarily be how they line up, because split 2 grid is defined by the results in pre-qualifying.
Yeah, precisely. So we've already determined our starting order. A lot of interesting names at the front, and it's going to be fun to see how it all shakes out over the 24 laps. Everyone vying for that one spot to get them into the main game, Split 1. We're looking at Blake Warboys here. Currently fastest in our little warm-up practice session here, after just going ahead and topping the time set by Brian Borg. He's done a 1:28.665, and it's just 0.02 of a second quicker than what Brian has done, so there's not much to separate them here in practice, and in fact there's just 0.4 of a second covering the top 10 in practice, so it's really, really close.
Absolutely is. 0.37 behind the fastest time is Hayden Veld, who's currently in P10, and Blake Warboys here going through the very twisty middle sector. Hayden Veld, I think, just making his way out of it, but that is the turn 11 run, and exhibiting here the Jinx Shifters machine. The last couple of turns here out of the final sector. Hayden Veld, 11th in the session now. He's been pipped by Sean McNamara, who's run a time good enough for 10th place. And you see these opening couple of turns. Turn 2 is a little bit tighter than turn 1, and you've got that bump on the exit with the wall right on the outside. There's certainly potential for the rear to get loose out of there, which is important because you've got that very long straight down here to the braking zone of turn 3, and you can use a lot of the curb here too.
Yeah, and then you've got to set yourself up for turn 4. You can elect to use some of that inside curb and grass, but not too much, for it'll unbalance the car. Turn 5 is really tricky. That concrete protrudes out on the left, doesn't it? And then turn 6 is so crucial. You've got to get a good exit out onto this back straight, which actually curves right and then left into the braking zone for turn 7. A poor exit will see you under attack from the car behind in the race. And then the braking zone, where you've got to straighten yourself up before turning to the right try not to use too much of that inside curve, or that will unsettle you as well. And then a very, very tricky final sector and a half at Belle Isle. No time to rest, and no area for mistake. Zero runoff, concrete everywhere you look.
Indeed, just in the background of that shot, you saw the Scott Fountain, which is a landmark here on Belle Isle. A little bit of a joke here at SimSpeed TV, because one of our owners' names is Scott Fountain. Hayden Belle, let's see, he's back up into 10th place now with that good run on the previous lap. Sean McNamara pipped down to P11 again, so it looks like the top 10 very competitive here in this practice session, but Hayden's just taking it nice and easy out there down this back straight. Only 2 minutes then left in the session, and there seems to be quite a few contenders here for the win in Split 2. Warboys, of course, showing some really good pace. You got Brian Borg, and then the Synergy drivers, Glenn Postlethwaite and Damien Johnstone. Robin Kirk is currently the highest of our simracing.com DPR runners, as that's a mistake there for Johnstone, into the wall very hard at turn 4. That's something you got to look out for. There's a bit of grass on the exit there, which means you cannot run too far to drivers left. Otherwise, that rear end will break right free. You'll be straight into the wall. Hopefully, no one does that on lap 1.
Hopefully. Can you hear my bated breath there, Reese?
yeah. When I say hopefully, I do mean hopefully, because race starts can be very chaotic at this circuit.
35 cars will take to the start around a concrete canyon. And Michael Taliantich, one of them, an ever-present force in these machines, the Pursuit Sim Racing driver, famously running the 777 car. Currently, you'll see Taliantich running P22 in the session. Just did his fastest lap of the session as well, a 1:29.497. He is 8/10 off the pace set by Blake Warboys, which has actually just been pipped by Brian Borg, but by a mere 3,000ths.
Oh, my goodness, it's looking incredibly competitive up at the top there. Brian Borg making a statement with these times. He's going to be fighting very hard for the win here. Coming back out onto the circuit. One of the Commodores there, and a little bit of damage to the left side of Jacob Brewer in 30th place. It's his first ever V8SCOPS start, Jacob Brewer, and my goodness, what a place to make your debut, eh?
It's a daunting prospect. It's like throwing a main game driver in real life into the streets of the Gold Coast or Townsville, something similar. Belle Isle, Long Beach, now Chicago. I would not choose any 3 of those places to make my debut in V8SCOPS, but for Brewer, that's the challenge he is set with. And if he can just finish this race, I would label that as a very good achievement for him.
Yeah, I'd agree as well, but the checkered flag is flying, and Jacob Brewer's going to jump right on in here from the frying pan into the fire for V8SCOPS Split 2. Here is the starting grid. It's Glenn Postlethwaite and Bradley Vaughan who start off the front row, Synergy and Pursuit. Brian Borg, who topped the practice session, is going to start alongside Aaron Borg in the number 14, with Damon Mulqueen and Cameron Veacock rounding out the top 6. Over the page, starting from 7th place, Michael Taliantich, 777. That is a good sign, with Veld sharing the 4th row with him. Rounding out the top 10, Robin Kirk and Blake Warboys, with Sean McNamara and Kenneth Latter ultimately rounding out the top 12.
James Chastanoff, Hayden Harrison, Reese Keane and Damien Johnston are on rows 7 and 8. Sebastian Flock and Logan Barnett on row 9 together. Across the page on row 10, rounding out your top 20, you'll see Mark Newton and Stephen Varga, Troy Maguire, Simon Chadwick, Jamie McKnight and Andrew Ritchie make up your top 22, and the names keep coming, Reese.
Yeah, I certainly do. It's Kokoschka and Smart on row 13, with Jacob Brewer and Tyler Blackburn rounding out row 14, and the top 30, Wade Sheedy and Dean Powell. And then We move over the page to the last few drivers. It's Jenkins, Kuznetsov, Parks rounding out the field here. Simon Black, Michael Korolev and Henry King are your race control for this one. And if something happens in the race, you might see the safety car jump out, piloted by one of those guys. So, anyway, here we go. Rounding out the field and getting ready for the green flag here at Belle Isle. Glenn Postlethwaite running a very good time there to put himself in pole position for the Split 2 race. And pre-qualifying usually decided very closely by mere hundredths, mere thousandths of a second. Let's see then how these drivers go, as we've still got a minute left on the gridding time. The start's going to be very crucial. Turn 3, as I mentioned in practice, is going to be the big choke point. You might see drivers flinging it up the inside and certainly causing a big old pile up.
It's all going to be about controlled aggression off the line here. It may be one of your best chances to gain spots at a track where difficulty of overtake is quite high, despite some good opportunities. But, in saying that, the risk is paramount on the opening laps.
Indeed it is. With only a few seconds left on the gridding time, the drivers will be getting ready to get the line locker into action, try and get the best start that they possibly can. Will Glenn Postlethwaite end up nailing the start? Will Bradley Vaughan pull a bit of a surprise? With the pace Brian Borg showed in practice, will he be able to make some moves here on the first lap? Let's see then, as the revs start to rise and we get ready for a start here at the Belle Isle Street Circuit. And we are away. That is a very good start there from Vaughan. Just as I said, he's pipped Glenn Postlethwaite into turn 1 into the lead of the race for Pursuit Sim Racing. Brian Borg still there in third place as the field files on through side by side in the midfield. And it looks like a reasonably clean start from everyone, but Vaughan having to go defensive here versus Postlethwaite, who goes to the inside, has a bit of a look up the inside of turn 3, just sneaks up to the rear quarter of Vaughan, but Vaughan gives him the room as there's a little bit of a problem behind there. I think that might be Hayden Veld right in the midst of all of that, as the United car making its way around there. Fantastic stuff. Incredible stuff from Cameron Veacock to get himself there, but looks like the top 3 starting to break away now from the rest of the field. Actually, the top 4 with Damon Mulqueen there trying to assist Glenn Postlethwaite. This is where things get really challenging, Ryan, here in the middle sector.
It was one hell of a start from Hayden Veld. He got off the line beautifully and actually launched it up the inside, set them 3 wide into turn 1. They all got through there cleanly. They're trying behind them deep in the pack to filter themselves through turn 7 without issue. There's one of the United Sim Sports cars of Reese Keane fighting with them, I should say. Stephen Varga and Reese Keane, that was. Whoa, that was that slide from Chadwick in the background. They've all made it through there cleanly. Back to Veld start. He took them 3 wide. They got through turn 1, and then he did it again at turn 4. And he's up 1 spot as a result of that.
Great stuff there. So it's a pretty good first lap from a few drivers. Have a look, though, at Bradley Vaughan up the top. He's already started to gap Glenn Postlethwaite there, and I think he had a really good run through the final sector, which secured that for him. So Postlethwaite's going to have to start looking over his shoulder now. Brian Borg having a look up the inside of turn 3. Can the Racecraft Simulations car get it done? Postlethwaite goes slightly wide to give Borg the room, and he's still up the inside coming into turn 4. And you can really run side by side through this section. It's just wide enough, but you end up losing a lot of time to the drivers behind. You see Mulqueen there, along with Cameron Veacock, now right up behind the battle for second place as Postlethwaite defends the position there from Brian Borg.
And as they do this, Bradley Vaughan will attempt to sprint away and pull as much of a margin as he can. Look at that. Look at the gap he's pulled already as Postlethwaite starts to back them up just a bit. Doesn't look that fast in these opening laps. He was very aggressive down towards turn 3. Tried to get by Bradley Vaughan. Couldn't quite pull it off, though. And now he's defending. Look at that. The entire field, pretty much. One long train, as we saw from that camera shot, looking down across turn 12. And from the static camera, the cars roar by. How close they get to that concrete, exiting turn 13.
It's fantastic. A great view there of these 650 horsepower machines. Oh, that was a bit of a slide there for Vcock out of turn 2. He's lost some momentum to Mulqueen and co. just up ahead and trying to have a little move up the inside there. Hayden Veld staying wide to let Aaron Borg through. And Aaron manages to just about get the move done, but hold on a minute.
That's Hayden going around the outside.
Oh, it is. I've gotten the cars confused there. Hayden Veld in the number 14. Fantastic stuff from him. And Michael Taliancic right in the midst of it as well. So let's see then what Michael Taliancic can do behind that number 53 there of Hayden Veld. Go on.
Hayden tried the really bold move. He got up the inside, ended up on the outside for turn 3, held it around turn 4, had the inside for 5, but he had that slide. We saw it. The rear end overstepped as he just caught the inside curb, and it lost him some momentum. Put him under some pressure from Taliancic, who wisely didn't throw it up his inside as there's a spinner in the background coming out of turn 11.
Oh, that's a problem there. That's Damien Johnstone that's gone for a whirl out of the turn 11 hairpin. He manages to get it turned around, though. We'll go to a Virtual Racing School replay to see how that happened. Virtual Racing School, of course, a big supporter of this series and us here at SimSpeed TV. So Johnstone managed to get the move done on the car behind, and let's see how he went here. It looks like he just spun up the rears on the bumps out of the turn. A little bit of front-end damage to boot. We're staying on the replay here because something's happened to Kenneth Latta. He's looking a little slow here coming out of the turn, and it seems he might be going to the pits for some damage.
Was he potentially the one that turned him around, Damien Johnstone?
Nah, Johnstone, I saw he clearly did it by himself, just picked up the throttle a little bit too hard in the middle of the corner, and the rear end broke free. So obviously for Kenneth, something else has happened out there that we haven't been able to catch. Either way, up the front, Hayden Veld continuing to pursue here in this battle for what is now 5th place. Damon Mulqueen has dropped off a bit off the back of Postlethwaite and Borg up ahead. So now it's a pack from 4th to 8th. Damon Mulqueen is starting to lose a bit of time to Cameron Vcock. That's a great run through the corner for Hayden Veld. Unfortunately, he just can't take advantage of it.
Yeah, Aaron Borg, locked up. You could see that puff of smoke from the rearward shot trailing out the back of the car, and it gave Veld some great mid-corner momentum. He's got great exit corner speed there, and he's going to carry it through turn 14. He's got the inside run for turn 1 if he can go deep enough on the brakes. Hold the car there, and around the outside of 2 gives him the inside for 3. He backs out of it and will try to get a good exit instead. Aaron Borg's just wiped his right-hand side along the fence. Now look at Taliancic trying to throw it up the inside. Hayden doesn't like that. He tries to cover it, but he knows 777 has the overlap, and Veld will try to hold on at the outside of turn 3, but position's been lost now. Might have to relinquish this, but no, Hayden's a fighter. He's going to fight this one, isn't he?
Absolutely, and Taliancic turned in, but Veld was right there, and now have a look at Blake Warboys. He's right in on this, along with Robin Kirk in the DPR machine. So, Warboys having to back out of the throttle just a little bit. It's very important to get the exit out of that right-hander, because the track opens up, becomes very wide down this back stretch, and Taliancic still harassing the back of Veld. Getting a Virtual Racing School replay once again, because, my goodness, Logan Barnett, split 2 winner, one of the last times out here. Let's see what he did here in the very tight opening sector of this track. Did he glance off the wall? No, he just picked up the throttle too hard once again. There's a lot of concrete around here at Belle Isle on the racing surface, which means it's very easy to lose grip, so not going very well there for Logan Barnett.
There's a lot of...
Wait! Oh, what's happened there? Something's gone wrong for him. He might have locked up, or maybe a hardware failure of some description. He's not able to keep it out of the wall. Poor Glenn, after driving so well in 2nd place, there's been a big problem for him. He's going to have to slow down and let the whole field by now because he's got a very stricken car. Let's see what happened here into the first turn. Brian Borg didn't make any contact. It just looks like Postlethwaite went too deep and very hard into the wall. That front left is going to be crying out for some mercy.
You mentioned there's a lot of concrete on the racing surface. You know, there's a lot of concrete around the racing surface well here at Belle Isle.
Oh, yeah, absolutely. And oh, Glenn, he just avoided the tyre barrier there and went straight into the concrete barrier. It's not the kind of incident that you want to see, especially if you've done so well as to put it on pole for this race, as Glenn Postlethwaite did. But he's going to make his way very slowly now back to the pits, and that then promotes Damon Mulqueen up into the podium position. So Synergy still have a car up there. They're going to be happy with that little bit of the situation, but certainly not for Postlethwaite. And it looks like the top four have spread out now as a result of that. The battle is now for fifth, which these guys right in the middle of. It's Borg, Veld, Talyancic, Warboys, Kirk, and McNamara all in this train at the moment.
Yeah, this has elevated this battle into a P5 battle. And gotta say that Aaron Borg is the slowest out of this group, but he's done a good job in holding them all up for now as we begin our 7th lap of 24. He's just got to keep doing that. Eventually, these guys will start to burn up their stuff at being in behind him, but they'll be sort of egged on in their own minds by how close everyone is just in front. If they can get by Aaron Borg, there's more positions to be gained. As in the background, there's plenty of action going on. Reese Keane, he's currently 13th. He's up a couple of spots in this race, but he was under pressure there, wasn't he, as he picks him up through turn 4?
Absolutely. Hayden Harrison really stuck it up the inside there, but Keane did very well to fend him off and get the move done there. So that's the battle for 13th that we're looking at. Right behind them, they've got Varga and Flock, Sebastian Flock, another V8SCOPS regular. Love seeing the variety of drivers that we have in these fields. You have drivers making their debut, drivers that just generally jump in for a run every now and then, but a lot of these guys are regular split 2 veterans, as that looks like a poor exit for Aaron Borg, giving a good run to Hayden Belle, but he has to back out through the final turn. That's another thing about the final turn. Not only, Ryan, is it difficult on worn tyres, as you said, but it's also very difficult to run side by side through there. You've got concrete on both sides. It's just flat out in these cars. So it seems that Veld is going to have to look for a move here at turn 3 again. Nothing happening from there as they both glance off the wall.
I don't want to say I know Hayden too well, but there's a dive coming from Hayden here, without a doubt. He'll be growing ever frustrated by this.
Yeah, we'll have to wait and see, because, yeah, as you did say, Aaron Borg, the slowest car currently in this pack, and slightly missed the apex there, had to pick up the throttle a bit later. It's a good run here from Hayden, and it might be the dive here that you were talking about, Ryan. Side by side, it's Borg defensive for turn 7. Can Veld get by before the braking zone? No. Aaron Borg holding on. They make contact. Veld just avoids getting into the wall there that juts out. Wow, he actually got the run done, and Talyancic and Borg coming together. They spin across the track. Unfortunately, no one else very heavily involved in that. But my goodness, Michael Talyancic, he might be out.
He's stalled it on the grass. He's got it going now. An absolutely stunning move from Hayden Veld. This left me almost speechless. That was above his ability, it almost seemed. He got around the outside here. And gotta say, absolutely world class from Aaron Borg to give him that room and not squeeze him into the concrete, as is so easily done. Look how close this is. And then Talyancic tried to capitalize as well. Just tagged the left rear of Aaron Borg. They both spin in synchronization. And I'm amazed no one else got involved in that.
Yeah, I'm amazed too. You saw Blake Warboys, Robin Kirk and Sean McNamara making their way by them. It was a very well-timed spin, I think, there for Aaron Borg. On board from Blake Warboys, you see just how close it was there. But the Warboys making up now 4 positions on his starting place. So it's a pretty good race for him so far. Hopefully he can hold on to it. So then, we take a look at Damon Mulqueen, and he's getting harassed a bit here by Cameron Veacock in the United Sim Sports machine. We got Jared Filsell back in the field tonight in Split 1. He's also a member of United Sim Sports, making a few appearances after sort of retiring from driving in this series full time, but United always out there making sure that their drivers are getting the best positions they can for this team. And it seems that Veacock doing pretty well at the moment. He was 4/10 faster than Mulqueen on the last lap.
Yeah. I'm actually looking at 3rd, 4th, and 5th. They're all going to close up here. Remember, we were talking about Aaron Borg being the cork in the bottle. Well, the cork's been unleashed. So, expect that 5th place group to maybe start moving forward. Blake Warboys just did his fastest lap in quite some time there, a 29.7, which is half a second quicker than what Damon Mulqueen did.
Yeah, Blake Warboys the fastest car on track this lap as well, which is fantastic stuff. Only just pipping Bradley Vaughan's lap last time by a 10th, and Vaughan seems to be very comfortable in the lead of this race now by 4.3 seconds from Brian Borg, who's all on his lonesome. And we check out the Pursuit Sim Racing number 100. Bradley Vaughan has been one of the star competitors here for Pursuit Sim Racing. I'd say that about a lot of the drivers in the team, to be completely honest with you. They've really come on strong this year, and Vaughan doing everything right at the moment. Just, I almost commentators cursed him there. He is glancing off the walls every so often, but you can do that in these cars. They can take a bit of a beating, and it seems to not be affecting his pace all that much as he sets another 29.8 on his way through.
His sector times and lap times are really interesting. This is really going to close up here. Veacock is but a whisker away from Mulqueen, and Veld is rapidly closing with Warboys in tow. This is going to be fun, the conclusion of this race, as Brian Borg puts in a pretty decent lap there in P2, a couple of tenths quicker than what Bradley Vaughan was able to achieve, 3.9 seconds away from him. That fight's not completely dead, not only, not yet halfway through this race.
Indeed, still got plenty of laps to go. They're on lap 11 at the moment of 24, which means the time will be rapidly ticking for these guys. Some moves further back in the field. That's Dean Powell making his way past Tyler Blackburn, who's still carrying some damage from, I think that might have been lap 1 contact way down in the field. And a little bit of a poor exit there for the Mustang. These guys are battling for 19th and 20th. And no matter where you are in the field, V8SCOPS, there's always someone to battle with that these guys are proving. And it seems like a pretty good run from Blackburn down the straight, but he's not able to take advantage coming into turn 7. A little bit wide, though, for Dean Powell, which allows Blackburn by, and there was just enough space to get that move done.
Yeah, good job from Blackburn not to run into Powell there, because Powell pulled left, trying to really avoid that fence and almost drove it into Blackburn. Further up the order, the battle for P10. This is where Aaron Borg has fallen back to, and once again, he's a cork. This time, he's got Chastanov, Keane, Harrison, and a host of other cars lined up behind him. This is a tough old race for Aaron Borg. He's just having to play the defensive game, lap after lap after lap. Chastanov backed up his corner there, trying to get the exit, and he has got a pretty good exit. He's carrying more speed on this straight towards turn 3, showing the nose. Is he close enough to make a move? He's going for it. He's got the overlap, and Aaron Borg's going to let him go through. They make a bit of and they bounce out of the fence, and Borg is in the fence once more. That's done damage to his engine this time. Chastano facing the wrong way in a very awkward spot.
Looked like the cars just came together and became glued to each other. Michael Taliancic has been given a drive-through from race control for the earlier incident we saw with Aaron Borg, but now twice in this race, Aaron Borg has been turned when a car's been attempting to make a pass on him. So I don't think he'll be very happy with how things have gone down tonight. Let's see it from above here. Shasti going down the inside. He had the corner. He was alongside, but Borg there turning in, and it was a bit of understeer there from Shastanerf. Got into the rear bumper, did Aaron Borg, and around they both went. A little bit of secondary contact as well from another car on Aaron Borg, but aside from that, it seems like the majority of other players have avoided that, as we saw in the earlier incident. But now, Aaron Borg, with the smoking engine, he's going to be limping back to the pits with very heavy damage, and I think that might be his day done.
Yeah, he'll be sorely disappointed with that. He'll be thankful that he can get back to pit lane. Bradley Vaughan will be thankful that he can get back to pit lane, because the last thing he wants to see is a safety car, because there are drivers in the top 10 that could match him for pace. There are drivers such as Robin Kirk, Blake Warboys, Cameron Veacock at times, Brian Borg if you can get close, Hayden Veld even. All of them are doing times as quick as Bradley Vaughan on laps. And given an opportunity, they could smell a race win with the safety car in this final half of the race.
Yeah, indeed they could. Now that we're past half race distance, the fatigue is probably going to start to set in for a few of these drivers. It is a pretty short sprint race for V8SCOPS standards, but these cars take so much out of you. They're so difficult to drive, and combine that with a very tight and twisty street circuit, it's very easy to lose your focus and get into the wall, spin out over these very harsh curbs, as Stephen Varga continuing to fend off Sebastian Flock. And they've got Simon Chadwick now on the back of this battle as well. Can't forget about Christian Smart either in the Synergy Sim Racing Commodore. Hayden Veld, meanwhile, we check back in with our P5 man. He's starting to catch up here to Cameron Veacock. And you see the delta just ebbing and flowing between 5 and 6/10 of a second. It seems that Veacock is going to be struggling a little bit for tyre life in this final stage, but Hayden Veld, with the pace that he's shown, he could certainly be on for a fourth here.
I told you it was coming. Hayden's actually on for a P3 if he can get by Veacock. Veacock's last lap was pretty slow. It was a 30.6, and that's a long way off the pace of the majority of the top 10. It's about 8/10 off what some of them are doing. It's 7/10 off what your race leader was doing. It's a full second off what Brian Borg did. I hadn't seen that lap.
Yeah,
that's
right.
An astounding lap from Brian Borg. That's the quickest we've seen in a long, long time. A 6.94, a 29.694.
Yes, indeed. The fastest lap of the race so far is held by Bradley Vaughan, a 29.038. But it seems that now that the race has gotten into a rhythm and every driver's just, not completely maximising the car for fear of getting into the walls, we're seeing times about 5-6 slower than that from the top drivers. But Brian Borg definitely showing some fantastic pace and keeping that gap under 4 seconds to Vaughan at the front. But we're on board with Veld through the last couple of turns. How does Veacock go out of the final proper corner on this layout? Just glances off the wall again, but it doesn't hurt his exit all that much. Hayden does have a big chance here coming into turn 3, and it's a pretty short lap here around Belle Isle. 1.5 minutes in an Australian touring car is certainly the mark of a short-ish circuit. It seems that Veld has a good run here on Mr. Veacock, but not close enough to make a manoeuvre into turn 3. You see Damon Mulqueen up ahead. You did say a bit earlier, Ryan, actually at this very point on the last lap, Hayden Veld could be on for a third. Well, there is Mulqueen in third, and they're starting to reel him in. Funny,
Veacock's last lap came back with Hayden on his bumper. Veacock got his act together. Mulqueen went into 30.6. So now Mulqueen's the one falling afoul of terrible lap times. It'll be a really good fight to see that one in the final 10 laps of this race, the final spot in the podium with the top two, 4 seconds between them, and Borg in second is 4 seconds clear of this P3 fight. Further back, battle for P10, Reese Keane trying to go slightly defensive, but not defensive enough because here comes Harrison. It's very late, he's not got up there enough, and Keane is able to hold him off.
Only just, my goodness. A little bit wide there for Keane. She just saw Harrison coming and gave him the room. And Harrison, you see, taking a bit more of a direct line to the inside of that hairpin, trying to gain any bit of track position he can here over Reese Keane. But they've got quite the train behind them. They got Varga, Flock, Chadwick, and Smart, as we said before. A little bit more curb usage there from Harrison, which means he can't pick up the throttle as well as Keane does. This is one of those circuits where you largely want to avoid the curbs, particularly in the final sector. They're so harsh that they really unsettle the rear, and or maybe a bit too hard into turn 2 there for Hayden Harrison, losing a bit more time again to Keane. He does open himself up to an attack from Stephen Varga, who takes a look to the inside in the United Sim Sports Commodore, alongside into the corner, and that is a textbook move completed there for Varga.
Tell you what, that's exactly what you want to do when you make an overtake, and Sebastian Flock, who's now behind Harrison, will see that and try to replicate exactly that. Chadwick in behind Flock, and Christian Smart, the other two drivers in this train of cars, riding on board with Sebastian Flock now down the back straight. Oh, there we go. Christian Smart's got an overlap on Chadwick, trying to go down the inside.
Ugh. Take it easy, boys. Space given, and move not complete there for Christian Smart, but tell you what, it's good to see the drivers giving each other room there in that section of the course. It is very difficult to fit two cars along there side by side, but I think a lot of drivers have been doing a fantastic job of that.
Yeah, actually been really impressed with the driving standards in this race so far. Always touch wood. With 8 laps to go, we've not seen any silly incidents. Everyone's giving each other plenty of room, and opportunities where drivers could have been driven into the fence and just hung out to dry haven't been taken up. Everyone's been given the utmost respect, which has provided us with some awesome racing.
Absolutely, and I think a lot of the drivers will have some experience on tracks that are hard to pass on. We did race at Alton Park last week, where many of the drivers we spoke to said that, it's basically impossible to pass at a circuit like that. Well, add concrete walls to the mix. Yes, Belle Isle is a little bit wider in places, but it's still very difficult to make a maneuver here, as, once again, Simon, looks like this is Robin Kirk on Blake Warboys here, battle for 6th place. And there's such a huge bump there on the inside of that left-hander. Simon Chadwick and Christian Smart, meanwhile. Looks like Chadwick has been able to make his way past... Smart's been able to make his way past Chadwick. Got a little bit lost in the train of thought there. We'll see what happened here. Rick Kuznetsov in 22nd place. There's been an incident here, I think, down the straight. Looks like James Chastaneuf up behind him, along with the 011 of Logan Barnett, who we saw going for a spin earlier. Kuznetsov running a little deep into turn 3, and that's a bit too deep. Goes straight into the barrier on the exit, and Barnett getting the move done, or getting a defense done on Shasty, but Chastaneuf around the outside. Brilliant stuff there. Just was able to find the grip on the outside of the course and get that move done, but obviously a bit of chaos mixed in.
It's just all very awkward. My eyes were distracted by the car going into the tyre bundle, but Barnett looked like he almost spun as well himself coming off turn 3, which is what allowed Chastaneuf to go around the outside at turn 4. All very messy. There's Mulqueen, there's Veacock and Belle, Warboys, Kirk, McNamara. It's only a mistake away from igniting this battle. What is igniting is this. Further down between Powell and Kokoschki. The 17th. We saw Powell work his way into 19th past Blackburn a few laps ago. Well, now he's up into 17th, so he's continuing to work his way forward in this race, doing a good job of it at the moment. And his lap times, they're pretty good.
Indeed. It looks like... who was that letting them go there? That was Tyler Blackburn, actually. It looked like he might have gotten a slowdown or had a spin on the exit onto the straight. So he's lost 2 positions out of that. Blackburn's going to have to find a way back past once again. So his race not going as well as it probably could. Meanwhile, up the front, further up to the front anyway, the battle for 12th, Hayden Harrison, Sebastian Flock. And Harrison, we saw, having a slight bit of trouble earlier, and he does have a bit of trouble into turn 2. Has to pick up the brakes a little bit just to get some more grip onto the front tyres. Flock not able to take a huge advantage down the straight, but he does have the slipstream and can fire his way up the inside at turn 3. Has he gone too deep? Yes, he has. Oh, goodness.
A big hit.
Chadwick. Oof. Chadwick right into the driver of Sebastian Flock there, and Flock unfortunately has lost the rear wing and the boot lid as well. So, that's going to be frustrating there for Sebastian as we take a look at it on the replay.
He just came from too far back. He left himself with too much work to do. I mean, look, he's come from almost 2 car lengths back. Diving in on the brakes, he never locked up. He just didn't stop. Too much to do in the braking zone, and poor Chadwick.
Yeah, Chadwick had nowhere to go. The car was loaded up as he turned into the corner, and I don't think he was really expecting Sebastian Flock to be sitting there. This is the view from his perspective. You see the incident happen, and yeah, by that point, Chadwick had already committed to the corner. He was on his line, and there was no altering it. So, picking up some damage that he would deem unnecessary in that. But 5 laps to go then. We see the damaged car there, the 033 of Damien Johnstone, I think, letting the number 42 of Damon Mulqueen by. And these guys coming up on a bit of lap traffic. They've got to be careful. Looks like one of the DPR cars there as well, making their way through as Veld has to go wide to avoid it. And that is, I think, Kenneth Latter. It is, indeed. And he's just trying to get to the finish now and get some points in. Veld still has Cameron Veacock to worry about up ahead. And this lap traffic might be giving him an advantage, but they have got the final sector ahead where there's not much room.
Yeah, Veld on Veacock here, he's quicker than him without a doubt. But Veacock is up to the task, and Veld's not quicker enough to the point where he can just make a move and go by. He's having to pull back on his own braking markers to avoid, going into him through the braking zones, and he's getting to a point where his own laps are affected. That's a big slide from Veacock, and Veld puts in a bad lap that drops him off the back of Veacock. Then he puts in a good lap where he closes in again, but then he's too close and he falls back again, and it's seesawing back and forth. Eventually Veld needs to get close enough to spring one up the inside. I think third place is probably too far away now with just a handful of laps remaining, but he's ever closer. This is probably the closest he's been all race long to the back of Veacock. Is his exit good enough? No, he had that little wiggle. Did you see that from the onboard across the apex and the hump of turn 2?
Yeah, indeed. Very difficult section of the circuit, and it looked like Veld had a bit of trouble actually getting it online for turn 2 as well. You need to take as wide a turn in as possible just to get the exit as straight as you can. Big, huge curb hit there for Veacock. That's one of the few big curbs around this circuit that you can use. So Veacock still holding on here to 4th place. But for how long is the question. Damon Mulqueen's just skipping away there in 3rd place. So not much of a chance of them catching up to him unless he makes a mistake, and very difficult braking zone indeed for turn 7. Our leader, meanwhile, Bradley Vaughan. It's been a pretty stable race for him. Brian Borg making up a few more tenths since we last checked in on him, but doesn't look like Bradley Vaughan is in much danger of losing this lead, which if he can come home in P1, he'll get that golden ticket, the run into the main game. That's how it works here in V8SCOPS. The winner of Split 2 gets a spot in Split 1, so they have the longest night out of anyone in this championship, the winner of Split 2. They've put in all of that work in the first race, and then they got to do it all again in Split 1. So 3 to go for these guys battling for 4th place, and looks like Blake Warboys starting to catch up to Hayden Veld here as he's stuck behind Cameron Veacock. Let's see what they can do then into these right angle turns.
Quietly, Brian Borg has shut that gap down to 3.3 seconds. There is maybe yet a sting in the tail for Bradley Vaughan. 2.9 seconds, I just saw that quickly dip down to. So Vaughan, I think, just taking it easy, but he's just got to be careful he doesn't offer up an opportunity to Brian Borg if he catches a lapped car at the wrong time. See there, 3 seconds a live gap. It was about 4.5 seconds not long ago.
Yeah, Borg's been putting in some very good times as, oh no, there's been an incident out on track. Logan Barnett, who we saw a little earlier. Oh, that's a bad spot. Oh, don't reverse. Goodness me. Oh, okay. That could have been a very bad incident, but good heads-up driving from that Synergy Mustang to avoid that as we check out the battle for fourth once again. Just avoiding these curbs, maybe climbing over the second one on your run into the hairpin of turn 11. And it's not quite bumper to bumper, but all these guys equidistant with Veld, Warboys, Kirk, and McNamara all...
V8SCOPS grabbed the fence there. And again.
It again, yes. Oh dear. So this is going to be the...
Big dive, turn 1.
Oh yeah, let's see if he goes for it. No.
And he could have gone there.
Whoa.
Whack.
Good mid-corner speed from Hayden Veld, but that stymied his exit massively. And, well, let's see if the frustration station is accepting trains. Oh no, Jamie McKnight, the manager of United Sim Sports, there was some heavy damage, and it looks to me like that's just up ahead of where these guys are now. Virtual Racing School replay, and we'll be able to catch the final couple of laps after this. So McKnight down into turn 3. He was already carrying some pretty heavy damage from an earlier incident. What on earth happened to him here? Turn 4 is where it happened. He goes, just avoids the curb, gets into the wall, and the engine blows. So that car finally giving up after McKnight tried to take it as long into the race as he could. So back to live pictures. Let's see how this battle for 4th place turns out. Warboys all over the back of Hayden Veld, as our leader should be coming up to get the white flag in just a few seconds. It seems that Veld, he's just having a lot of trouble getting those exits down. You know, like mid-corner speed, he certainly has it, but maybe he could afford to brake a little bit earlier, just line up the exit for the run that he needs on Cameron V8SCOPS. Final lap begins for our leader, Bradley Vaughan, as looks like that's one of the Emu Sim Racing Commodores into the pits. So white flag now for these guys. Let's see what Hayden Veld can do. Blake Warboys losing out a little bit as they make their way out of turn 2. Let's see if the move gets made into turn 3. It looks like Veld might be too far back. Robin Kirk a bit too far back on Warboys to make a move either.
Warboys made a mistake in the braking zone. He locked up the rears at the final stage of the braking application, and it cost him a bit of time. You see the gap just opened up to Veld there between himself, and there you go. Crucial as well, because at least the backstraight, look at Veld, almost had an overlap. He'll cut back and get a good exit. If he can get to the inside here, which he's done, this will be crucial. End of the backstraight, Veld on the inside of V8SCOPS for 4th place. Final lap, here we go, Veld on the brakes. If he can get across and cover it, he should complete this move, and Hayden Veld is up to 4th. Finally, he completes the task.
Excellent stuff there. That was a very good pass. Just got that narrow exit that he needed onto the back straight to get alongside V8SCOPS and get the move done. But this guy right here, Bradley Vaughan, untouchable since the get-go. Got the start he needed over Glenn Postlethwaite and managed to avoid the chaos. He takes the win in V8SCOPS Super Split 2 here at Belle Isle. Brian Borg comes home in a very strong second. Mulqueen is going to take 3rd place. So at the very least, Synergy Sim Racing get a car onto the podium, and, well, not a moment too soon for Hayden Veld to get 4th there on Cameron V8SCOPS. They come together after the line, but hey, the positions are made. Dean Powell for E1 Sim Racing, all on his lonesome at the moment, and he might have had a spin or a crash somewhere along the line. We'll check out exactly what happened here, because Powell was up behind one of the black and green Mustangs here. You know, Simon Chadwick, who we've seen a few times in this race. Looks to me like just completely missed the braking zone, did Dean Powell. Maybe a micro lockup that made him lose grip in the front, and he had a lot of trouble getting it going there because the wall's very close, and, well, fortunately, drivers were able to avoid him. But I think that was a pretty good race to start off the night here at Belle Isle with that fantastic 4th place fight with all those cars involved. But Bradley Vaughan is the star of the show as he makes his victory celebrations in the runoff area down at turn 3. Here are the results then. By 4.7 seconds in the end, Vaughan got it over Borg with Mulqueen, Veld and Veacock, the top five. Blake Warboys managed to fend off the advances of Robin Kirk, and just 2 tenths further behind him, Sean McNamara in 8th place. With Mark Newton and Reece Keane rounding out the top 10, looks like it was a pretty good run for DPR.
Certainly was. 11th place, Stephen Varga, ahead of Hayden Harrison, who just beat home Christian Smart. Simon Chadwick and Tyler Blackburn in the end, getting up to P15 after being back in 20th and having an incident early on in the race. Stephen Kokoschki in 16th, ahead of James Chastaneuf. Dean Power, that last lap crunch into the tyre bundle, ahead of Rick Konetsov, Sebastian Falk. All of these drivers we saw at some point or another coming a cropper in the race.
Indeed we did. Kenneth Latter, another driver with damage, classified a lap down along with Steve Jenkins. Jamie McKnight, 3 laps from the end, he just couldn't get it done. Logan Barnett had to bring it into the pits, as well as Damian Johnstone and Todd Parks. Andrew Ritchie, 8 laps down. Aaron Borg, one of the heartbreak stories of this race. If he wasn't involved in those 2 bits of contact with Taliancic and another driver, then he might have been way up in the field. Taliancic himself coming home in 29th, 12 laps down. And Glenn Postlethwaite, another heartbreak story here. Very heavy damage and not the race that he would have wanted from pole. The field rounded out by Jacob Brewer, Troy Maguire and Wade Sheedy. They were all out on lap 1 in the chaos that happened further back in the field. But we are going to have to step aside for a moment here at SimSpeed TV because we got Split 1 action coming to you very soon. Thanks to Virtual Racing School and Too Easy Finance, this is V8SCOPS 2021. Who's going to take the spoils in Split 1 with Bradley Vaughan joining the fray? Join us in just a moment.
We've been waiting for this moment. Generations of innovation all coming together in one place. A pedigree of more than 70 years of NASCAR Cup Series history, from the past to the present, from Petty to Earnhardt to Elliott. Today, there's no more waiting. The future of NASCAR is now. Drive the next-gen cars today on iRacing and step into the next generation of racing.
Yeah, so we're using the VRS Direct Force Pro this year. We have a wheel adapter right here, so I'm using the rim I used last year. But the motor right here produces a lot of power, a lot of precision, and it helps me, just feel the car more, feel the car a lot quicker. Especially, this week we're at Sonoma. I can feel it, when it hits the curbs. Any little change in the car, the wheel reacts a lot quicker than your typical gear-driven or belt-driven wheel. For example, if you're on oval and the rear tires break loose, force feedback on it corrects a lot quicker than your typical wheels. There's no resistance pretty much as far as being able to make quick corrections on the wheel. So all that, paired with how precise the wheel itself is, it makes it to where it helps you as a driver, to find that extra hundredth or thousandths of a second. So when you're getting a direct drive wheel, especially the VRS wheel, it's heavy duty. It's got good weight to it, it's not a plastic toy. It feels like you can really beat up on it. A lot of people have issues with their plastic gear-driven wheels just kind of breaking after a couple years. This thing just feels like it can go forever. The forces are really strong where if you might have to let go of the wheel if you get into the wall. You can adjust all that with the settings on it and stuff, but the wheel itself doesn't play around. It's got way more strength than you could ever need, and that's what makes it good, that you can adjust that down to whatever the car needs. So initially you'll be able to get the controller box and the motor together, and eventually you will be able to add a rim onto that option. They'll also be including a button plate on it to put on the rim to have all sorts of different buttons and functionality. Also, pedals are coming, so that's a pretty big deal as well. Hasn't been covered too much, but the goal is to also have pedals to go along with the Direct Force Pro. So that's pretty exciting. The wheel feels good. It feels very much like a real world steering wheel. You just kind of feel like what you would imagine the car to feel like. A real steering wheel in a car is very smooth, it's very direct, very quick, and that's what this wheel feels like.
Hey everyone, the USF 2000 is a blast to drive now, and here's your chance to learn it quickly. From my tutorial, VRS created a free bonus track guide for the Laguna Seca circuit, where you can learn exactly what I do in every corner to improve your lap times and get faster on track. You'll learn how to easily recognise brake markers, you'll find out which curves to attack and which ones to avoid, you'll know when to use the full track and when a sequence of corners requires a compromise, and you'll learn how hard to brake and when to lift. The VRS quick reference track maps are available free to download and delivered each week to your inbox. The entire global MX-5 series is available, as well as bonus maps like this one and many more. So if you're a new racer, or a veteran, or just anyone who wants to learn how to get faster sooner, the VRS track guides are for you. Just hit the link or button on screen and get yours today.
This is fantastic. This is GT racing right now. He's got traction. He's going in the outside. Both of them. Maloney. Oh, he's taking Anderson. Anderson's up to him. Oh my God. Big crash. Oh my goodness. Half the field's going to get rolled.
Second very close. These guys are want to make their way through the field very quickly. Oh, there we go. Oh no. That's massive. This is it. This is over. I can't believe this. Oh my God.
God, what?
You're watching Virtual Racing School V8SCOPS for 2021. It's round 9 from the Belle Isle Street Circuit just off the coast of Detroit on the river. And we had a fantastic race in Split 2 just before, with Bradley Vaughan coming home in the top spot. So he gets to have another run here in Split 1, but things do change. We have our championship protagonists in here, and we've also got a bit of a longer race here, 200 kilometers. That's 53 laps of Belle Isle with 2 required pit stops. I'm Reese Gardner, Ryan Jones alongside me, and well, let's see then how the drivers tackle this circuit, because Ryan, we've got to think about qualifying as well in this one. It's split qualifying, which means that the top half of the field from pre-qualifying get to go last. Bottom half of the field from pre-qualifying get to go first in this session, which makes sense considering how tight the circuit is.
Yeah, and it's going to be interesting to see how that mixes up the order, if at all, having a split qualifying session. The track right now is 42 degrees. It's 3:17 in the afternoon. And so they're having the slower drivers go out. What did you say? First?
Yes.
Yeah, so we have the slower drivers go out first. Are they going to get a better track condition? Well, who knows? They're probably going to heat the track up just a little bit, having 16 or so of them running around at it at full blast for about 12 or so minutes. 15 or so minutes. But I imagine here in practice, with the full field running around, it's probably going to reach that point anyway where it's not going to get too much hotter from just pure track use. So I think those faster guys probably won't be too disadvantaged, but maybe something to consider.
Yes, indeed. Something to consider for sure. The drivers are out there in the practice session at the moment, and this being the last round before Enduros, it means that the drivers are really going to be getting their eye in for those longer team-based races of the season. We've also got Supercars E-Series starting up in a very short time, which means that we've got a couple of other drivers in here as well that haven't been regulars to V8SCOPS recently. Jared Filsell amongst them, and Jared managing to set the fastest time in pre-qualifying, but it's Jordan Caruso who sets the fastest time in the practice session so far, 1 minute 29.8, and then you got Richard Hamstead up there too, 1 minute 29.651. Some fantastic times being set already in these early stages as we go to live pictures. Here is Jordan Caruso. driver that didn't quite have the race he wanted at Alton Park last time out, just a week ago, involved in incidents with Madison Down in that particular round, which means he didn't quite get the result he was looking for. Showing some great pace still is Jordan Caruso, taking his debut win this season, and he's taken all of his wins so far in SCOPS this season, so really coming to the fore along with much of the team here at Altus Esports.
Yeah, that Altus team is really that Altus team is
That
really
old team there.
really moving forward, aren't they? Which seems improbable given that just a year ago they were, the team to beat in Australia. They still are, and they've still managed to move forward. Now operating out of a team house that only has one driver in it, with some more yet to move in. It's just a testament to their operation, and we're seeing that reflected in on-track performances for all of their drivers. James Scott, most certainly one of them.
Indeed, we also got to think about the likes of Cooper Webster too, because he's certainly brought himself up the field in recent rounds. Andrew Gilliam as well for Pursuit Sim Racing, another driver that we've been keeping a very close eye on, and he had some good results at Alton Park last week. He'll be hoping to repeat some of that here as Josh Anderson for TTR goes to the top. Jared Filsell just 600ths of a second behind him. Webster in third. Then you've got Ethan Warren, who was the victor at Alton Park last time out, second in race 1 and first in race 2, managing to take the round win. Ethan is going to be looking to repeat that here as well, because he's really come on strong in this middle phase of the year just before endurance season. Brenton Hobson is going to be looking for some improvements as well in the Synergy Sim Racing number 88. He was involved in a couple of incidents at Alton Park that put him way down the order with some damage, and he'll be hoping to avoid that, but that's going to be difficult here at Belle Isle.
Well, you say that, but Split 2 ran incredibly trouble-free. But one or two minor incidents that you'd expect from any race at any racetrack. It was pretty cool, actually, to see such a trouble-free race. However, that normally means Split 1 is set for an absolute Lap 1 massacre. So we'll see whether that trend continues. Hopefully not, because I would love to see a good clean race, especially given we've got just the one race for our format tonight, 53 laps the distance.
Indeed. It's going to be interesting to see how drivers manipulate the strategy here as Hobson makes his way into turn 7, 8, 9, 10, 11, this very difficult section of the Belle Isle Street Circuit. How will the strategy play out in this race? Because, it's not quite the 250 kilometre standard race format we have here in V8SCOPS. 50 kilometres lopped off it, but you still have to pit twice between the end of lap 2, I think, and the start of lap 52 is the pit window. So you can't take a pit stop right at the final lap. Otherwise, you might get a penalty from race control. Corey McFarlane, another driver from Drop Bear Motorsport, a team that's recently emerged as a pretty good contender, particularly in the V8SCOPS support series that we run on the Friday night before each round. They've got drivers like Daniel Yeaman in with them that have been very successful in that series. And these guys really putting the power down, as you can see, over those bumps. It's traction is very important here at Belle Isle. You got to make sure that you are gentle on the power, otherwise, that wheel spin that you just saw from McFarlane, it's going to turn out to really ruin your lap time.
And not so much in qualifying, but you'll have to look after those tyres. And wheel spin in qualifying means a ruined lap time. Wheel spin in the race means extra tyre wear. The more you do it, the more you're going to spin those tyres. The more you spin the tyres, the more the tyres wear. The more the tyres wear, the more you spin your tyres. It's a vicious cycle, isn't it?
It is indeed. And tyres particularly important in these things with the amount of weight that they're holding. Those 4 bits of rubber, they've got 1.5 tons over them. So that's something to the tune of about, I'd say, just under 400 kilograms each. Balance there. Jake Burton now making his way around, and Burton has yet to set a representative lap time here in practice, but he's another driver who's going to be looking for a bit of improvement before the Enduros as well. Alton Park didn't quite go his way either, but Jake Burton, one of the most tenacious competitors that we've seen in V8 SCOPS to date, and he's always searching for a better result.
Yeah, it'll be interesting to see how he goes tonight. He'll be gearing up for plenty more action in this car in the coming months, I suspect. And we'll be looking for some strong results, along with a number of drivers around him in the timing screens right now, actually. Emily Jones, Richard Hampstead, Jordan Ross probably as well. And then further up, the likes of Webster, Phil Sell, Caruso, Warren. In fact, pretty much anyone from that top 10 we're likely to see a lot of moving forward in upcoming series. Bradley Vaughan, there's your Split 2 winner. Doesn't look like he's learnt much from Split 2, judging by the right side of that car.
Ugh. Yeah, he's had a couple of grazes of the wall here and there as Bradley on his way out on track in practice, just getting his sights in these differing track conditions. Loving this camera angle because it really shows you how difficult that double right-hander is. Turns 12 and 13, very harsh curb on the inside, concrete wall on the outside, and Vaughan practicing a pit stop here, and probably also to get that damage repaired, because there's going to be quite a bit of pit lane action. Not only do the drivers have to pit twice in this 200k race, but the no escape rule is in place in qualifying. If you're new to V8 SCOPS, that's what we do around here. If you end up having to stop on track for whatever reason in qualifying or the race, you have to request a tow from race control. You can't just pull over after you've finished a lap, for example, and go straight back to the pits. You must bring it into the pit lane and stop in your pit box just like you do in real life.
A good rule. It's a great rule. That's why we have this rule.
Indeed. It would certainly, it would certainly make things difficult for the drivers out there if you had to deal with drivers just braking and slowing down on their final laps, doing what you just saw that car do. That would be very distracting and potentially also very dangerous. So anything that can be done to mitigate some of that in the qualifying session and make it a bit more challenging for the drivers, I'm certainly for. So take a look at the DPR machine, the number 71 of Adam Briggs. No, it's the 41, sorry. Making their way around. DPR, another one of those teams that we've seen, in the mid to upper midfield. And they got a pretty good result with a double top 10 in Split 2. Of course, the drivers involved there are not going to be making an appearance here. But I tell you what, Andrew Dyson here in the number 41, certainly one of the star competitors of that team. He took the Split 2 win at Montreal last year and was able to get a very good season out of that. You should look out for Andrew Dyson and his teammate Adam Briggs in the top 10 in the standings, because they know how to get those points holes. There
is Briggs on the racetrack, unless I'm mistaken, and we're still looking at the same car.
Yep, no,
it's Briggs.
It is Briggs.
Who else have we got out there that's of note tonight? I would cast an eye potentially to this man, Madison Down. Number 1 on the car, for he is our reigning champion.
And the championship leader as well, as you can tell by the red banner on the windscreen. Down getting the win in race 1 at Alton Park and trying to continue that momentum. He didn't have the result in race 2, but he's traditionally been pretty strong here around the streets of Belle Isle. Let's see if he can improve on that 10th in practice.
To improve, he needs barely make a tiny improvement. have you seen how close it is, the top 10? It's 4
Yeah.
tenths of a second. There's 1 second covering 19, 20, 21 cars right now. I thought Split 2 was competitive, but this is really close around these Belle Isle streets at the moment. That's Jordan Caruso down to
Indeed,
Brady Myers, I think. Those 21. Carl George, those 23 cars now.
Yeah, that's crazy. Absolutely insane closeness of times that we're seeing at Belle Isle, and that's what we like to see. Certainly means that qualifying is going to be very hotly contested. Emily Jones just moved up into the top 10 meanwhile, setting a very good time, and the McLaren Shadow Commodore pulls over to the side of the circuit and escapes back to the garage. It's one of the last opportunities she's going to be able to have to do that tonight. But the number 51, she's continually gotten those consistent results, battling for top 10s or just inside the top 10. She's shown some great potential in the past to get podiums and wins in V8SCOPS. It just hasn't quite gone her way, but she knows how to battle hard and she knows how to race cleanly, does Em. Let's see how well she does here tonight as Jake Burton and Ethan Warren go up to 6th and 7th place in the practice session, and that's the main reason why you don't want to see cars stopping and towing in qualifying.
A bit of a demonstration was needed. Thank you very much. Andrew Gilliam. Someone that has shone through on a number of occasions. Has his on nights and has his off nights, but the on nights are coming more and more often, aren't they now, for Mr. Gilliam? 201 from Pursuit Sim Racing. Currently 6. Looks like this is going to be a very on night for Gilliam.
Absolutely, and he's keeping the car nice and clean out there at the moment, getting some good times down in that blue Mustang that has become an iconic part of V8SCOPS ever since he set the timing screens alight on his debut races and taking his debut win at Mosport last season, a double victory. That's what Jordan Caruso did this year at the very same track, just maybe a few hundred kilometers away in Bowmanville, Ontario, from this virtual Detroit city. And it's a lovely locale here on Belle Isle. You actually see there some of the roads being used. This track's been through a couple of different layout iterations over time, and we're going to take another look at it from the air. It's just off the waterfront of the city of Detroit, the Motor City here in the United States, the birthplace and the cradle of the American car industry. There's been a few occasions where Detroit has hosted street races, particularly in the CBD in the 1980s with Formula One, but Belle Isle has been more in the vein of IndyCar and sports car racing, which still races there every single year. That run down to turn 3 from 1992, that layout dates from. You actually see a road splitting off there to the right after turn 2, and there's a chicane around where the turn 5 marker is. That was the original layout of this circuit. So it was a much twistier ride in years past. Fortunately now we have that great overtaking opportunity at turn 3.
Yeah, I was going to say it looks more fun, but I think this new one offers up more of an opportunity thanks to turn 3. And of course turn 7, the other large overtaking opportunity. They're pretty much the only places we saw it occur. Turn 3 and turn 7 in Split 2. Turn 1 if you're brave. It never really worked out in the long run. They generally always got passed back at the 3rd corner. But before we get to all of that, it is time for qualifying. 2 groups of 18, 15 minutes each. Group 1 head out now. The cars at pre-qualified 19th through P36 out onto the racetrack.
Indeed, and it's a very long line of cars out here making their way around the racetrack. It looks to me like leading the charge is Ben Christensen in the number 9 and Lee Ellis in the number 18 Trans-Tasman Commodore behind him. There's Ben making his way out onto the back stretch, and there's already been quite a bit of rubber laid down here on the circuit with that 20 minutes of practice, and the starting state of the track was 50% usage, so there's already quite a bit of grip out there on the racing line, but the drivers are going to have to be careful of the track temp. It's actually fallen a little bit since we got into the session. It is now 39 degrees, so thank goodness for that, some drivers will be thinking. As a cloud falls over the circuit, there'll be a little bit more grip available to us if the track is a little bit cooler. It seems to be there's like a sweet spot around 29 to 39 degrees Celsius, where the cars seem to produce their most optimum grip, and Christensen gets it off to a good start here on a lap at Belle Isle. Let's see how he does here on board into turn 1. You're braking almost as soon as you're across the start-finish line. Ride the curb, keep it tight, open up turn 2. Careful of the bump on the exit. That will absolutely swing you into the wall if you're too flat over there. And then the long run down to turn 3. Best passing opportunity on the racetrack. Got to brake a bit earlier than you think for this one, but then you can carry quite a bit of speed through the middle of this corner, and Christensen just kissing the curb on the inside. How much of the curb at turn 4 does he use? Fair amount. Gets up almost on 2 wheels, and then you want to try and avoid this curb on the left. It's just unsettles the car way too much, but the wall juts out there on the exit. You got to be careful not to run too wide out of there onto the back stretch. And then, Ryan, the most difficult part of the circuit coming up, which we already saw some pretty chaotic incidents in Split 2.
We did. A tricky braking zone where you pretty much start on the right, end on the left to maximize your turning radius for that 7th corner. And then a very treacherous final sector of this racetrack where you have no room for rest. You're turning all the way to the left through a long sweeping left-hand, and then you flick back to the right. Apply the traction in a tricky zone, as my words fail me. And then 2 90-degree right-handers, 12 and 13, to basically finish off the lap. Get the power down out of 13, and then through 14, which is flat out at this point on your qualifying lap, and across the line before quickly diving on the brakes to begin another lap. A 30.3 for Ben Christensen is the first lap we see here in qualifying.
Geordie Cine for Synergy Sim Racing abandons that lap going into the pit lane. He's obviously picked up a contact or not happy with where his time is at the moment. The DPR machine of Andrew Dyson then across the line, and he sets the first, one of the first times into the 29s. There's many drivers in the 29s now as we get into the meat of the session. It's Kyle George on top, 29.4. Emily Jones just shadowing him. What can Wayne Burke do? 1 minute 29.3. That is going to be P1 at the moment for Wayne Burke. Fantastic lap from the Synergy driver, another SCOPS veteran who's been with the series pretty much from its inception. Aaron Dodd, meanwhile, setting a 29.776. That puts him into 8th place so far. So Andrew Dyson, he did briefly look quick, but now he's down into 8th position, which is going to be difficult to come back from as there's more cars out on the circuit and the racing line heats up a bit. There's going to be a little bit less grip available to the drivers. 8.96 for Brett Loxton in the Ventra IP Zuva racing machine. And I absolutely love that livery. Zuva's always been a pretty eye-catching team, but since they came on board with that rearrangement with Ventra IP, those cars have looked absolutely fantastic. But looks like the first stage of laps is now over, and we're going to be seeing drivers go out for their second runs pretty soon.
We're about half a second off the fastest times in practice. Kurt Stenberg has had an issue. He brings it to pit lane with no rear deck lid.
Oh.
Or rear wing, as a result, to speak of. So he's going to have to come down and get that fixed. Bradley Vaughan, Split 2 winner, begins his first qualifying attempt of the evening because, of course, Split 2 does not have qualifying. They line up how they got themselves through in pre-qualifying. But he has the advantage of a full race under his belt. But that was race trim. Now he's out there on low fuel, trying to put the best possible time together, but keep it out of the fence because you cannot afford to fail to register a lap and have to start from the very back of a track where it is tricky to overtake.
Indeed, let's see what Vaughan can do into the middle of the circuit. He's got his work cut out for him, as Bradley. Plenty of difficult places on this track to fit 2 cars side by side. He had it easy in Split 2, some might say. But now that he's in split one, he's going to be way back in the pack if he can't find a little bit of extra time here. And he was very aggressive with his curb usage coming into turn 11. Let's see if that benefits him towards the end of this lap. The number 100 then back out of the last proper corner, just grazing the wall. It looked like that might have been a contact. No, well, he thought, oh yes, I am going to go for the pits, but then no, I think I'll just start another lap here and see if he can actually get a time on the board.
He grazed the fence, I think, as he crossed the start-finish line, so this lap probably invalidated as well. A bit of an error there on Bradley's part. He had to actually get out of the throttle because of how narrow his entry to turn 14 was to get through the corner, and I still don't think he was out of the throttle enough because of the fact he did graze that fence. As I said, half a second off the fastest practice times that was set by the likes of Caruso and Webster. So that gives some sort of reference as to where this might put Wayne Burke, Kyle George, the two fastest drivers at the moment.
Yeah, indeed. Those two very close there up at the top. This is 15 minutes that the drivers have to deal with before there's a 5-minute break, and then the top half of the field from pre-qualifying comes out. We'll have a bit of a sighting lap by the safety car in the midst of all of that, as Emily Jones looks to improve on her current P3 time, and all she needs to do is make up a 10th, and she's going to be right up there with Wayne Burke and Kyle George. This is looking like a pretty clean lap so far. She makes her way onto the back stretch. She's got one of the Synergy cars behind her of Jack Boyd, and Jack Boyd, another driver who we'll be looking out for here in the second half of the season. Both of them avoiding the wall nicely, giving it a good amount of space, but just trying to make the turn in as wide as possible for turn 8. And then 9 and 10, this double left-hander that seems to go on forever and ever, but you've got to slow down and turn at the same time here for the turn 11 hairpin. That's a good exit there from Jones. Let's see if she ends up committing to this lap.
Oh, very close to the concrete, coming out of 12. Pretty late on the throttle, out of 13, and yeah, into the pits. It didn't finish particularly strong that lap. Here's Jordan Ross, though. This should be pretty good from Ross. Always competitive, and a 29.4. So that puts him 7th.
Does indeed. We've seen quite a few shifters there. It's actually second for Jordan Ross. Andrew Dyson up to P5. Lee Ellis also improved on that one. He was briefly P6 before those times came in, but now he is in 9th, which is still a good performance there for the number 18 Trans-Tasman driver who had a problem at Alton Park. Couldn't get to the finish very easily. Wayne Burke for Synergy Sim Racing, current P1 driver. Let's see if he avoids the walls on this lap and ends up improving. Brett Loxton, well, thought he was going to commit to that lap, but he ultimately does not. And now Wayne Burke sees if he can possibly get into the 27s. It's going to be difficult, though, considering that the times that we've seen in practice were in the 28s. So let's see if Wayne Burke can improve here. It seems he's a little bit early on the brakes here for turn 7. Not quite using all of the exit. Maybe he's just winding down or winding up here.
He's winding something. Trying to wind his car around this Belle Isle circuit. It doesn't look as if it's the flashiest of laps, but often that means it is going to be good. But yeah, it's not a competitive lap, that's for sure. He's off pace. He's getting ready to go and attack at some other point that will not be his next immediate lap as he brings it to pit lane. Sean Lindsell, currently 15th, 17 times on the board from this group. 30.4 his last lap, 30.3 his best lap.
Interesting to see Sean Linsell in a car that's not white or black. That's a pretty unique colour for a DPR machine, that blue, with the alcohol holder on the side of the car. So 1 minute 30.2 is previous laps. We'll see if that's an intentional choice there to run that blue car for Sean Linsell, but at least it's pretty eye-catching out there on track. Don't see much in the way of the mid-blue tones in terms of cars out there. Corey McFarlane's going to start a lap now. Let's see then how he does in the drop bear car. McFarlane currently P8, and well, he's got a little bit of time to make up here. Only to the tune of about 400ths though. If he can find maybe a tenth of a second, then he'll jump both Boyd and Stenberg, perhaps pip Andrew Dyson as well. So it's all about getting the exits right here in this initial stage of qualifying. Climbs over the curb a little bit more than we've seen some drivers do, so McFarlane's obviously confident in his car's suspension. A little bit of oversteer there on the exit onto the back stretch might harm him.
Stenberg is on a good lap, looking at his sector times. Let's see what he does as he brings it to pit lane. Was that a wise decision from Stenberg? He must have made a mistake. Sector 3 and Sector 4, they were his best ever. They were his best of the session, I should say. And his first and second sectors matched what McFarlane had done. And with how close it is, surely he was on for an improvement overall. So, interesting decision there from Stenberg. He'll be done for the session now, you would think. I think there's just time.
Just get out there.
Yeah, just time to get back out there. It's getting close. They're all coming in and getting ready to fly back out there with minimal fuel now, aren't they?
Yeah, that's it. The cars are running light and as stiff as they can get them while still managing to cope with the bumps of Belle Isle. You do have to set up the springs, I would say, pretty soft for a track like this. Bailey Frid for Pursuit Sim Racing, a driver that we haven't seen set a big representative lap time just yet. He's going to be leaving it to the very final moments of the session here in the number 5 to get it done, as there's a car on the wall behind. That's Geordie Sinney, and it looks like Brenton Hobson's joined him in the runoff area for turn 3 as well. So that final phase of the session for Synergy Sim Racing not going how they want, but Pursuit, well, Bailey is their big hope here. Let's see how he goes. A tiny bit of oversteer again on the exit of turn 6 down to turn 7. I mean, these sweepers down the back stretch, I would count them as corners personally, but you know how some racetracks are with their corner naming and defining conventions. So let's see how Bailey Frid does here in turn 11 section.
To cut you off, Jack Boyd improves a couple of spots. Jordan
does.
I don't know what is with drivers improving on sectors and coming to the pits, but Jordan Ross at the fastest middle sector and was on pretty decent other sectors as well and decided to pit.
Well, they're not going to have any opportunity to improve now if they bring it back to the pits, as it's a 30.7 for Bailey Frid, and unfortunately that's only good enough for 18th position at the moment. It doesn't even look like... Oh yeah, that lap has indeed counted. I'm just waiting for the timing to update. 18th position for Bailey Frid. So it looks like he might be starting a bit further towards the back of the field. So he's going to have quite a bit of work to do. But if he can nail the strategy, he can certainly get it done. We'll do a bit of strategy talk when the safety car comes out of the pits.
Emily Jones.
Exciting lap.
Fastest first sector of the session. Purple to sector 1. Decent sector 2. And is only 600ths away from the fastest third sector of the session. This is coming together to be a very good lap from Emily here. Could get her up inside the top 3 of this group. She's a 10th away at the moment from Wayne Burke. The top 3 are covered by 300ths of a second race. Coming to the last 3 corners.
Yeah, this is very tight. Emily Jones then into the last couple of corners. Does she avoid the wall? Probably only just, if not just grazing it. Take care, Emily. Down the final stretch. She avoids the pits and is committing to this lap. Is she going to beat Wayne Burke? A 29.517. Unfortunately, that's not going to be an improvement for her. She remains 4th, but still a very good lap. 0.005 of a second slower. That's got to be at least a little bit heartbreaking, but the checkered flag is flying. Sean Linsell improves to P14. which is good to see. And we've still got a couple of Synergy Mustangs out there. The 1, 2, 7 there. See how well this driver does coming across the line. It is Jordan Ross, who is second at the moment, and he does not commit to that lap. So Corey McFarlane, the only driver left out there at the moment, and it seems, well, he's taking a nice sedate tour back to the pits as the two safety cars make their way to the end of the pit lane, Nick Parker and Henry King, to do their sighting lap. And, well, we can take a look at the results so far. It's Wayne Burke and Jordan Ross with Kyle George, only covered by 0.03 of a second, those three. Emily Jones and Jack Boyd round out the top 5 so far. And then it's Dyson, Stenberg, Ellis, McFarlane and Freer rounding out the top 10. Then you got Aaron Dodd and Brett Loxton behind, with Hobson, Linsell, Sinney, Christensen, Hins and Frid rounding out the 18 cars so far that have set times. Now,
from Emily, it all fell apart in the second sector race. At first glance, it didn't look like a bad sector. It was only a 10th away, right? But with how close they are, that was what counted. Just a 10th of a second.
Absolutely. Shows you how much the slightest differences can make such a huge difference in V8SCOPS as Parker and King bring their cars out for the sighting lap. We use the Porsche Cayman GT4 car for the safety car in V8SCOPS.
Please
and
crash.
there's a chance that you might see one of these guys out here tonight if there's a big incident out on track. And if the safety car does come out, drivers will be jumping straight for the pits, which we should have a quick chat about now. From Madison Downs Virtual Racing School data pack for Belle Isle, we've got about 3.16 litres of fuel usage per lap. And with some back-of-the-napkin calculations, that brings you to about 167.5 litres for the entire race distance, and probably give or take a few litres here and there just to be safe. That results in basically you can split the race into 3 equal distances of 55.8 litres each, or you can do a full tank at the start and then 2 shorter stops of about 28.2 litres each. 28.2 litres is going to take about 10.5 seconds to fill in the car, and tyres take about 9 to 10 seconds most of the time, depending on how well you pull up in your pit box. So drivers will still be able to easily take tyres at both stops if they play it right.
Sorry, I'm not listening to you. I'm watching this outstanding battle between the safety cars.
I was here looking at my notebook, and these guys are having a great time out here on track, and it looks like just beating King into the pit lane is going to be Parker. A little bit heavier on the brakes using the ABS of that Porsche Cayman GT4. So back into the pits they go, and we've got 40 seconds or so to go until the green flag flies for the second half of the session, and it looks like Jared Filsell, the man to beat, coming out of pre-qualifying. But what can the likes of Madison Down, Ethan Warren, the Altus boys, Richard Hamstead, what can they do versus him?
You know what's occurred to me? So those guys got 15 minutes, plus they were allowed to finish their laps, were they not?
Yes, and it will be the same for these guys as well.
Ah, yes, so we'll have the timer will hit 0, then it'll continue, won't it? Will it?
It shall. So no drivers are in trouble.
Tis always confuses me. There's much confusion on iRacing sometimes.
Yes, well, I think the only case in which the timer will hit 0 and the session immediately ends is probably in solo qualifying or something to that regard. But we are out now for the second half of the qualifying session, and guess who is leading the charge? It is indeed the United Sim Sports car of Jared Filsell, and he's going to have some nice clear air up ahead of him, but he's still keeping it nice and sedate around this track, just saving the tyres as much as he can for this hot lap. Jared knows what it's like to be up the front of a Scops field. He's a 3-time champion of this series, so he'll be going for absolute glory here today.
He's made plenty of mistakes though as well, so he'll want to try to avoid those. It's easy to get it wrong, and when you're racing at this level, it's a fine line between getting it right and getting it wrong. and the consequences of getting it wrong around this track are going to be disastrous. In qualifying, especially more so, starting at the back for a single 53-lap race will cost you any chance, I would say, of claiming a podium. This is not a place you want to be buried in the pack, not somewhere you can afford to try and do a bunch of overtaking. There's so much risk of being caught up in an incident that blocks the track, leaves you with nowhere to go. It's so important to get qualifying right. One of the more important qualifying sessions of the season, Jared Filsell will look to put that all out of his mind and just focus on this one lap.
Yep, and one lap is certainly where Jared Filsell's strength is. You know, there's been so many crazy lap times set by this guy over the years, and you often wonder how he manages to do it, especially up against the likes of drivers like Madison Down and Richard Hampstead and Josh Rogers, who we haven't seen in this series in a very long time with his racing commitments in Europe. Filsell seems pretty clean through the first sector, using all of the curb and then some through turn 4. See how he avoids the curb at turn 5. Oh, that was very close to glancing off the wall, if not picking up a 0x along the way, but there's barely any oversteer to be seen coming out of turn 6, which is very different from what we've seen from a lot of the drivers who took part in the first qualifying session. So this is looking like a pretty quick lap from Jared Filsell so far. Hopefully he didn't pick up that 0x, because I'd be really interested to see what this time is.
Ethan Warren going quicker though. Warren purple to the first sector. James Scott purple to the second sector. Filsell, the only one properly through this third sector. Now they're all pretty much through there. He's the one that's gone purple to there. So they're sharing it between them. This is cool, watching the timing screen light up like a damn Christmas tree. Let's see how the times shake out. Filsell straight to the top with a 28.8. Half a second quicker than the best we saw from Group 2. But who can go and match him? Ethan Warren. He started out this lap strong. Can he finish it strong as well? James Scott will be someone else that's done a very good job. Jordan Caruso was very quick at the end of his lap. He was the fastest of all in the final sector, but he only went third. James Scott was second at the end of his first lap. And where did Ethan Warren go? Only goes 8th. That was a pretty bad lap in the end. He didn't finish that off very strongly at all. Cooper Webster goes 4th. Blake Purdy up to 8th now. Joshua Anderson to 7th. The top 10 now filled with Group 2 cars.
Indeed, and Richard Hampstead just pipping Anderson to 7th there. Hampstead, the championship leader for the vast majority of the first half of the season, but got pipped by Madison Down a couple of rounds ago. So his main focus is going to be on getting as many points as he can before endurance season gets underway. But Jared Filsell, that was a great opening lap from the V8 veteran and the 3-time champion. Let's see if he can try and improve on that. He'll want to, because there's a lot of drivers out there who are edging him out in some sectors around the track, as you did point out, Ryan, and only 1.164 between himself and James Scott. Andrew Gilliam hasn't set a time yet, and we're looking to see how he goes here on this lap, his first attempt, and looks like this is an out lap for Andrew Gilliam, so we're going to have to wait a little bit longer to see what this race winner can do.
Yep, we'll wait a little while. Everyone's taking a bit of a cool-down lap now. Either that or diving to the pit lane. Jared is in the pits, as is pretty much everyone. So they all went out for one lap, put it all on the line, straight back in, fill the car back up, put on a fresh set of tyres, and when I say fill the car back up, I mean just for one out lap, one in lap, one flying lap, and out you go again, try again. Gilliam, though, is going to come out of pit lane and come across some slow-moving cars that he's going to have to navigate on his flying lap. Let's see how he does here as he goes by the first of those cars. That was Jake Maloney. That was a good spot. That was in a straight line. As he catches some of these guys through the middle, not the middle sector, that's a straight at time, but the back sector, the 4th and 5th sectors of this racetrack, he's going to be in a bit of strife, I think. Look at that queue of cars in front of him.
Yeah, this is going to be a spot of trouble here for Andrew Gilliam if these drivers don't slow down, and I think just avoiding the wall jutting out on the exit of 5. And let's see, these guys end up slowing down. That's Brady Myers letting Andrew Gilliam go in the Trans-Tasman number 22. Good stuff there. And more drivers moving over. That's Jake Burton and then Madison Down that let him go. This will be very distracting here for Andrew Gilliam. He's been able to maintain pace on this lap, but with all of these cars that he's having to make his way past, he's probably losing a bit of focus out there. James Scott then lets him go.
Yeah, he's not being held up or blocked, but he is certainly being distracted. He's having to second guess. Are they going to get out of the way? Are they going to stay on the racing line? What are they going to do? Where are they going to go? And it will be costing him time. This won't be a good lap, and he's come into the pit lane. He knows that lap was not going to put him anywhere half decent, and he's decided just to bring it straight to the pits, not waste another 2 minutes going back around the racetrack again, as they all now begin their second flying lap of the session.
So we focus on Jordan Caruso at the moment in the number 12, and he's got a pretty good draft there, just up ahead from his teammate James Scott. Coming down into turn 3, Scott gets onto 2 wheels, Caruso gets onto 2 wheels. These Altus cars, we'll have to keep an eye out for them because they're traditionally pretty strong when the tyres are fresh, and just a little bit of sparks there from Caruso. He is pushing the limits here around Belle Isle. Oh, yes, and a purple sector. Fantastic to see there from Jordan.
Purple first sector, but not so great second sector. May have pushed the limits slightly too far. Phil Sell goes purple in sector 3. Purple wing mirrors as well for Jordan Caruso.
Very convenient there indeed. So we've got a few drivers here who we're thinking are going to improve on times here in the second phase of Group 2. Caruso behind Scott, just keeping it nice and easy with those 3 Altus cars in a straight line. I think that's Cooper Webster there just behind them. So out comes Caruso. James Scott improves. Caruso improves. But it seems that Jared Filsell elected to bring it back into the pit lane. He has not improved on that one. So things are a little bit closer here. Up at the front, Caruso improving to P2. A fantastic job there from Jordan as Ethan Warren, winner of previous round, goes to P3. Job Stewart improves to go P22.
So that second sector where he was about half a tenth away, he's half a tenth away from Jared Filsell. That's where it counts.
Hampstead got up into the top 5 meanwhile, just as we were talking there. Fantastic job from Richard.
Very good effort there. Jake Bird in 6th. Cooper Webster forced to 7th after not completing his lap. Blake Purdy in top 10. That's a good effort.
Certainly is. Oh, he ran a little bit deep there into turn 5 though, so he's going to have to let these guys go at some point. Purdy, he's shown himself to be a strong competitor in Split 1. He had a fantastic top 10 finish at the first round of the season at Montreal. So he's come in leaps and bounds this year. He's found some pace in that track racer machine for Pursuit Sim Racing. And yeah, 10th so far. That's the kind of times that you want to see. He's only 4/10 off what Jared Filsell can do up there at the top of the field. Filsell, meanwhile, is back out onto the circuit on an out lap and getting ready to gear up for another. Let's see what Blake Purdy can do here. He's giving a little bit of a draft to his teammate Andrew Gilliam, as Gilliam is still searching for a representative lap time in this session with under 5 minutes to go. So Purdy jumps into the lane and away goes Gilliam to start his second attempt at a hot lap.
Trouble is, no, he should get away with it this time. He's ended up ahead of that crush of cars this time. There are a couple of slower moving drivers in front, but not as bad as his first flying lap. So let's see how Gilliam it shakes out in all of this. He's currently 11th, so he did manage to put his time down. And it was a 29.3.
It's not quite what he would be wanting, though. We've traditionally seen Andrew Gilliam fighting for, 7th to 5th place at the very least, so he'll be hoping for a little more out of that. Josh Anderson, Trans-Tasman Racing, finished on the podium at Alton Park last week, hoping for more of the same here, but currently down there in 9th place, so what he'll need to do is not only beat his championship leader teammate Madison down, but also make his way past Burton and Webster too. There's not much separating those guys. Looks like a bit less than a 10th covering them all. And if Anderson can find a 10th of a second, he might be able to edge out Richard Hampstead too, but that's not going to happen. He's going into the pit lane for this one once again. Gilliam also going for the lane. So 11th he stays for now. James Scott now.
Purple second sector, personal best fourth sector, and his overall lap currently P4.
Ooh.
He improves and goes to P3.
Right, so that's 2 Altus cars in the top 3 now. Madison down, still 8th position at the moment for our championship leader. He'll want to be up a little further than that. And flashing the lights here, as I'm not too sure who he was flashing them at, as there was no traffic ahead. Maybe he was thanking a driver for letting him by a bit earlier. Brady Myers
moves up 7 spots to 12th. Sorry to cut you off, just ahead of Brady Myers.
Ah yes, of course, Ethan Griggolt racing this round as well. He's another veteran of V8SCOPS and was teammates with Jared Filsell at Evolution Racing Team back in the day, and was a contender for the championship. He's another driver that we haven't seen much of recently, but it's awesome to see Ethan back out there. It's always good to have him along. Let's see what Myers can do then through the middle sector. Keeping it clean, maybe a little tight of an entry into turn 11, but he can certainly pick up the throttle nice and early in that Trans-Tasman Commodore. These guys, of course, largely running the virtual racing school data pack setup. Madison Down is a VRS coach. He has plenty of experience setting these cars up and piloting them to victories, as it's a 29.271 for Brady Myers. Puts him into P11. Slots Andrew Gilliam down into 12th place. Not a bad run there for Brady.
Oh, Jordan Caruso did another really good lap there. Got ever closer to Jared Filsell, but still not close enough.
Yeah, only 0.03 of a second there up at the top of the field. So looks like Filsell still has the edge here for the time being, but that Altus duo of Caruso and Scott putting themselves right in contention as they have for the majority of this season. What about Richard Hampstead then? He managed to go P5 and gearing up for a fast lap here is Richard Hampstead, just starting now and nice and smooth through the first couple of turns, as we expect from another long-standing iRacing Australian touring car driver. This guy's been around forever.
It'll be his second flying lap on those tyres, so he'll have to do well to improve. Everyone's been doing one flying lap, then pitting. Andrew Gilliam, he's out there trying to get himself inside the top 10. He's currently 12th. Best time of a 1:29.3. 2 tenths will get him inside that top 10. 4 tenths will get him pole. It's that tight.
Absolutely. Let's see how much of that time he gains here in the middle sector as the checkered flag flies in this final phase of qualifying. This is crunch time for everyone out there on track at the moment. They have to nail their marks, get everything right. And Andrew Gilliam takes a reasonably wide line into turn 11, sets up a good run down the straight. A little bit of oversteer from Madison Down behind. Don't know if he's going to improve on this one. What can Gilliam do? Can he break into the top 10? This will be crucial for him. He commits. Let's see then what the time is for Andrew Gilliam. 29.3, the time to beat. and it is going to be a 29.0 that he sets, and that is a fantastic time for Gilliam. Moves him up into P5, just pipping Richard Hampstead. Jared Filsell coming up to the end of a lap 2, maybe just glancing off the wall. Yes, he has abandoned that lap, but for now, he remains on pole.
Cooper Webster goes to P4 with his lap.
Brilliant stuff from Cooper Webster, and Brett Loxton just keeping himself there as well. Actually, I think that might be Chris Coxhead getting a little bit of a run in before the Enduros, but a great time from Webster, managing to make it 3 Altus cars in the top 5. So Altus is having a pretty good day out there here at Belle Isle. Trans-Tasman, maybe not so much. Their highest car, Ethan Warren in P5, Hampstead 7th, Madison Down 9th, and Joshua Anderson in 10th. So they'll be hoping that there's some dramas for the Altus drivers to start off this race, and also try to get a good start, as we saw the number 100 of Bradley Vaughan get in Split 2. Vaughan didn't set a time, by the way, in this qualifying session, so he'll be starting all the way at the back. A lot of work cut out for him today, but we can go through the grid here for the feature here at Belle Isle. Split 1, 53 laps, and it's going to be Jared Filsell and Jordan Caruso on the front row. James Scott and Cooper Webster in all Altus row 2. Ethan Warren, as I mentioned, the highest Trans-Tasman car in 5th, alongside Pursuit's Andrew Gilliam, and then you got Richard Hampstead and Jake Burton sharing row 4, with Madison Down and Joshua Anderson rounding out the top 10. Then it's Blake Purdy and TTR's Brady Myers starting out of 12th.
Ethan Grigault and Wayne Burke on row 7 ahead of Jordan Ross and Jake Maloney. Kyle George and Emily Jones make up your top 18. Top 20 rounded out by Jack Boyd and Andrew Dyson. Kurt Stenberg and Lee Ellis, Job Stewart and Corey McFarlane. Your first 12 rows of your field.
Chris Coxhead in the 208 is going to start out at 25th alongside Tom Freer. Then we got Kobe Jones and Adam Briggs alongside each other, 27th and 28th. Rounding out the top 30, Aaron Dodd and Brett Loxton. Then we got Brenton Hobson sharing 31st and 32nd with Sean Linsell. Geordie Sinney, another Synergy driver, in 33rd alongside Ben Christensen in the number 9. Thomas Hinz and Bailey Frid, the last 2 drivers to set times in this session, with Bradley Vaughan not setting a time in the qualifying in Group 1. So away we go then. This is going to be a very crucial start here at Belle Isle. We saw that Vaughan in Split 2 got that fantastic start to pip Glenn Postlethwaite into Turn 1. Might the Altus cars be able to do the same to Jared Filsell? It's going to be tough, because Filsell, one of the most experienced and successful competitors in Australian touring car sim racing.
And the launch will be critical. 53 laps, but you've got to get off the line well. And you've got to get through the first couple of laps without drama. And you can see the experienced racers. They're all waiting as long as they can before taking to the starting grid. Now Caruso lines up. Still got an extra minute or so before the countdown will end. So some time before us here for the start of this one. 2 Altus cars, line of third on the inside. That could be beneficial to them off the start here. There's no pressure for Caruso if he gets a bad start of someone dive bombing it up his inside. Because that's what really causes a lot of incidents at Turn 1 here, is people diving at Turn 1 at a corner where really 3 wide shouldn't be tried on cold tyres. And then Turn 3, similarly, Reese. It's such an acute angle. 3 wide isn't the greatest idea, but it's the first lap. People are aggressive.
Absolutely, and the width of the straight down to Turn 3 certainly tempts the drivers into going 3 wide. Bailey Frid from the very back of the grid. You see Thomas Hinz there in the grid spot up to his left, and it's going to be difficult for the drivers in the back half of the field. If something happens up the front or in the midfield, they're not going to know about it until they come around the corner, thanks to the nature of this track. So fingers crossed up here in the commentary box, and all the drivers will have their fingers crossed as they lay their hands over their steering wheels, hoping that it's going to be a clean start, that they don't lose too many positions, that they hopefully gain some and they'll be able to get themselves in a good position for the first of our 2 mandatory pit stops tonight in this 53-lap race. The revs rise. V8SCOPS at Belle Isle, getting ready to go. And we are away, and it looks like a pretty good initial launch there from Jared Filsell, also from Cooper Webster. Not the greatest start for Jordan Caruso. Filsell is unchallenged into turn 1. Caruso manages to slot ahead of Scott as Hampstead and Gilliam are side by side just behind. There's the 2 TTR cars, Madison Down and Joshua Anderson. Together, they are side by side coming down the straight towards turn 3, and this is the crunch point. Big braking zone here. They're going 3 wide in the braking zone in the midfield. Does anyone come a cropper? Looks like a couple of drivers having to back out of maneuvers there. Is Jake Burton making it 3 wide on the 59 and the 201, and that is Ethan Warren into the wall, having to defend now from Blake Purdy.
Yeah, Warren went for a big slide, getting stuck on the outside of that. He's got away with it, not too much damage to his car, and he's dropped down to 13th place. Very fortunate there for Ethan, but he'll be disappointed by that. Unnecessary aggression probably from Jake Burton. Not a corner you go 3 wide at. Barely even a corner you go 2 wide at turn 4. But they somewhat escape trouble-free. Jared Filsell leads this race from Jordan Caruso, James Scott, Cooper Webster, and Richard Hampstead, your top 5. They're still side by side, deeper in the pack.
They are indeed, and more moves being made there at the turn 11 hairpin. I'm seeing Job Stewart securing the position on Corey McFarlane as he moves up into 23rd position, I believe, with Job Stewart now looking to chase down Jack Boyd just up ahead. The drivers single file here as they come round to start lap 2. From the end of lap 2 is when you can come in for your pit stops, so it'll be interesting to see if any drivers decide to jump in early. If they've lost some positions on the first couple of laps, they're struggling to get by other drivers, they might want to jump in, try and get a bit of an undercut. It looks like a pass almost going on in the midfield there as Ethan Griggold almost tried on Brady Myers, but nothing doing there. They remain single file, but Jared Filsell starting to pull out a gap just up ahead of the Altus trio of Caruso, Scott and Webster. Now that the tyres are up to temperature, now that he's gotten into that rhythm, this is where Filsell really shines up at the front of the field.
I'm looking at Brenton Hobson at the moment, back in about 30th spot, not where he wants to be. He just got passed by Bailey Fridd, and now he's going toe-to-toe with Bradley Vaughan, our split 2 winner, who's trying to work his way forward after getting disqualified from qualifying for towing without permission. Up the inside at 7, Hobson looks for the cutback and wisely backs out of it to avoid a crunch between concrete and car.
So Bradley Vaughan up 7 positions on this first lap. It's been a good run here from the split 2 winner. Hobson taking a bit of a wider entry into the hairpin. Probably tried to late apex it, but just couldn't get the car to the inside quick enough. As check back up the front, these drivers just starting their 3rd lap here. Focusing on James Scott in the middle of this this Altus train behind Jared Filsell. They got Richard Hampstead up there behind him, and Hampstead has been able to keep Gilliam at bay for the time being. You see some close racing behind there in the distance. Goodness me, who on earth was that? Seems that Brady Myers going side by side with Ethan Griggold, that is Griggold making the move finally on the 22 that he'd been threatening to do for the last lap or so.
And behind, Ethan Warren was able to slip by Blake Purdy for position. So 2 exchanges, Trans-Tasman Racing on the march forward, while 1 Trans-Tasman Racing car goes backwards, I should say.
Indeed, and you see up there at the top, no further action from race control over the incident between Jake Burton, Ethan Warren and Andrew Gilliam. Looks like to race control, it's just first lap shenanigans, and no one was hugely disadvantaged by that. Yes, there was a pretty big disadvantage for Ethan Warren, but at least he was able to keep it going with minimal damage. So, now, speaking of Jake Burton, he's getting chased at the moment here by Josh Anderson, and Burton currently sitting in 7th place and keeping up a good run of pace here. He hasn't quite been able to match the pace of Gilliam yet, but if he can get in the slipstream, keep it nice and strong through the middle sector, he might be on for a top 6 here. And Hampstead if he keeps his pace up, might start battling with the Altus trio pretty soon, because Phil Cell is just leaving them behind, as you can see.
The Altus trio are going to be battling amongst themselves. Cooper Webster's got quite some pace over James Scott, it looks like, who's falling away ever so slightly from Jordan Caruso, who's hanging on to Phil Cell quite nicely. Webster would quite like to go with him, I'd say. James Scott, the man preventing that at the moment. There you go. Look how close Webster is to the back of his teammate.
Yeah, looking like there might be a trade of position here shortly if Webster can keep this pace up. But Altus Esports, like many teams in Australian sim racing, traditionally not huge on the whole team orders thing. So let's see then if Cooper Webster can prove his worth there versus James Scott. Both of these guys have plenty of success in V8SCOPS in the past, under the Altus Esports banner for Scott and under the Altus and I believe TTL banners for Cooper Webster as well. Let's see then. Down at the front stretch they go through turn 14, this flat out kink on fresh tyres. It's not much of a problem in these cars, but bumper to bumper into turn 1. Oh dear.
Bailey Frid and Aaron Dodd. I've just seen how that's happened. Let's grab a virtual racing school replay at turn 7, because this is a case of a gap that always closes. But there was certainly overlap. But they were side by side, and this braking zone starts on the right, it ends on the left, and Frid didn't really leave enough room for Aaron Dodd. But by the same token, Dodd bounced off the concrete, and trying to stay as far left as he could, and into Bailey Frid he went. Around goes Frid. Big damage to both cars on board from the perspective of Bradley Vaughan, who just avoided that.
Yeah, and almost opened him up to an attack by Brenton Hobson as well, but again, was able to fend off the advances of Hobbo 88. Coming back to another replay, because the pass, I was thinking this was going to be the pass being made by Cooper Webster on James Scott. He's now gained a position, but we're looking at Wayne Burke, who's had a big oversteer moment there coming out of turn 4, and that has allowed the Ethan Grigault car through as, oh dear, Berkey getting into the wall and having to stop. So I think he might have requested a tow from race control at that point. Is he still out there, I wonder? He's still out on track, going slow, so I don't think there's much chance of a safety car. Burke's been able to get it back going. So Nick Parker or Simon Black not going to be making an appearance just yet in this race. But yeah, as I said, the position has been changed between James Scott and Ethan Warren, and they have lost a bit of time in the midst of making that maneuver. Now Richard Hampstead's right on the back of them, and they've got Andrew Gilliam, Jake Burton, Josh Anderson, and Madison Down onto the back of this train. So now is the time where these drivers are probably going to start thinking about their first pit stop. When are they going to take it?
Yeah, precisely. Cooper Webster, that is gotten by James Scott. But on the note of Ethan Warren, he's going to probably have to start thinking about his own team battle here with Brady Myers. Do they want to change position? Because Blake Purdy's right there with them. If they change position slowly, Purdy's going to go by. But if they don't change position at all, Purdy's probably also going to go by.
Yeah, between a rock and a hard place, these two TTR drivers of Myers and Warren. Of course, Warren was able to put a great performance in qualifying, and the only reason that he's down here is because of that 3-wide incident with Andrew Gilliam and Jake Burton. So he certainly has the pace to get it done.
I think it'd be wise of Myers to let him go and then try to follow him for a little while, see if he can't pull away with him, because that's certainly what Warren would probably do, is pull away and drive up to the next group of cars. Poor exit for Myers, good exit for Warren, better exit for Purdy. This will be interesting. Warren pulls to the inside. Purdy went to go with him, decided against it. Little lock-up from almost drives into his teammate. This is tight. This is really tight.
Oh,
They're
dear.
all banging into each other. Purdy wants to get a move on and hustled by both of them. He keeps thinking about 3 wide, and he keeps thinking, no, I don't want to do that. It's too early. Not now. But again, he's presented an opportunity. Again, he decides no. He pushes Ethan Warren past Freddie Myers. They almost push each other into the fence. Myers is slowed up. Here comes Jordan Ross to capitalize as well. All of this unfolding in front of Emily Jones, who will fancy her own move as Myers outbreaks Ross. Finally, the dust settles.
For now, at least. Goodness me, what a bit of racing there, and it was incredibly close between these drivers. They barely left each other any room, but still managed to get through the corners cleanly. And, well, Blake Purdy gaining a position out of all of that. Ethan Warren gaining a position as well. But Ethan's going to have to get back on rhythm pretty quickly, because Purdy, showing the strength that he has this season, is certainly going to give him a tough time if Warren can't scamper away here. We still have no takers on pit lane yet, apart from Chris Coxhead, who came in on the previous lap. 10.4 second stop time and 30.6 second lane time. And we've also got Corey McFarlane and Ben Christensen in the lane too. Corey with an 11.6 second stop time. Ben Christensen yet to come in. We'll see how well he does here. So these are the initial runners. They're going to be putting in a bit of a heavier fuel load, I'd say. Try and get a very long middle stint out of this and maybe another splash and dash at the end. Or alternatively, they could be going for a short fill now and then a longer stop towards the middle. Try and bring it home on a long stint.
Top 3 all did a 30.3 on the previous laps. They're all pretty evenly matched there. Phil Sell, Caruso and Webster. About half a second quicker than everyone else in the top 10. Very curious to see what Warren can do now that he is ahead of those he is battling with.
Tell you what, Ethan Warren has not been able to drop Blake Purdy just yet. He's made a couple of small errors as we focus on Gilliam and Burton at the moment. Burton getting into the wall again out of turn 13. But it's not going to stymie his run too much. This pack is looking pretty consistent here behind James Scott. And a great view through turns 1 and 2 for all of these drivers. The Altus boys have spaced out now, and looks to me like Scott's starting to turn into a bit of a cork in the bottle. Hampstead can't get by, Gilliam's a little bit too far back, but Burton is really starting to monster the back of the Pursuit 201. Meanwhile, Thomas Hinz and Aaron Dodd jumping into the pit lane as well. Hinsey was up 3 positions when he jumped into the lane. Coxhead and McFarlane go back by them, and it looks like for Hinsey it's a 13.1 second stop time. The slowest we've seen so far, but that means that he's gotten a little bit more fuel to play with here in the middle phase of the race. Just be hoping for some clear air. Make sure he gets some consistent times down, gains time on the competitors around him. If you're starting that far down the field, it's worth it to go slightly off strategy. Try and get yourself at least up into the midfield.
And Aaron Dodd has been given a penalty for the contact with Bailey Frid on lap 4. Bit harsh. I don't think there was really a car's width left for Aaron Dodd, and that's why he ended up hitting the fence before he ended up hitting Bailey Frid. But race control has their say, and Dodd will have 25 points added to his license. Yes.
Emily Jones also jumping into the lane. Emily falling down the field now as she comes in for her first stop. Remember, it's 2 mandatory stops here tonight at Belle Isle. Let's see what kind of time Emily Jones has in the lane. It's a 13-second box time, so she's filled that thing up quite a bit more than her other competitors. So she'll be going long, I think, in this middle phase of the race, hoping against hope for some clear air, and she can try and advance forward like Thomas Hinz is. So check out again Jake Burton on the back of Andrew Gilliam, and it seems to me that there's not much he can do at the moment. Richard Hampstead starting to gap these two, and Andrew Gilliam, it's not so much that he's defending really well, but he's just able to keep the pace up to the point that Burton just can't attack.
Well, he's defending by not defending.
Yes.
Because as soon as you go offline, you slow yourself down. He's staying on the racing line, hitting all his braking markers, keeping his mid-corner speed up to a point where if Burton tried to brake later than Gilliam, he'd outbrake himself. So he cannot get a run on him. Cannot, because Gilliam's mid-corner speed is too good. He cannot brake later than Gilliam because Gilliam's braking performances are too good. And so he's just stuck there for now, until Gilliam makes a mistake, which may never come, if Gilliam can withstand the pressure. And all the while, they see Richard Hampstead and James Scott getting ever closer in their windscreens. Into the pits comes Kobe Jones as well.
Tom Freer joining him too. Wayne Burke has, I think, retired from this one now. He pulled it into the pits some time ago, and he's been in there for 7.5 minutes now. So I don't think we'll be seeing much of Burkey in this race, which is a big shame. Meanwhile, Jake Maloney, Andrew Dyson and Kyle George, the trio battling for 15th position. Maloney, I think in a car that he's not quite meant to be in. Usually he drives the Holden Commodore, but he's in the Ford Mustang. He did upload a Mustang skin though, so we have, I think we can confirm there that he's intended to drive the Mustang for this one. Perhaps he is driving with Richard Hampstead in the Enduros and sharing the Mustang with him. That's another thing that you've got to take into account, is the differences visually between the cars. There's no difference in the physics. These cars drive exactly the same as each other.
The Holden.
Really? Or is that, are you having me on?
No, it's 50 horsepower extra in the Holden race.
Righto. As Jordan Ross makes his way into the pit lane. Depends on who you ask, our director says. Trying to make me look like a moron on stream. Jordan Ross into the lane. And let's see what the stop time is here for the 143. It seems like we're seeing times in the realm of about 11 to 13 seconds, largely on this first stop cycle. And for Jordan Ross, it's 12.8 seconds in the box. So he's going to come back out, I believe, in about 28th position, just ahead of Emily Jones, Chris Coxhead, Corey McFarlane. Actually, Jones passing Ross as he makes his way back out onto the circuit. Is the battle for the lead at the moment. It's Jared Filsell by 1.26 seconds over Jordan Caruso, down to about 1.1 as they make their way through the acceleration zones. And
it's not what I'd call comfortable.
Right.
It's not what I'd call comfortable, is it, Reese? Especially when you consider the fact that by the end of 27 laps, split 2, we're dealing with lap traffic. We're going to have cars pitting. That's going to put them even further back on the racetrack. They're going to have lap traffic as well. More of it, I would say, because of the pit stops. So Phil Sur's going to have to contend with that. Inevitably, he's going to get held up by laps cars at some point. And when he does, Caruso's going to be right there on him.
Yeah, indeed. Judging from Phil Sell's past drives in V8SCOPS when he was racing in this series full time, he would usually, once he'd get out in front, just extend that gap lap on lap and hold on to a lead of about 2 seconds or something like that. Caruso is really staying with him here, and the first bit of lap traffic they would likely come up to, well, they actually don't have anything until Thomas Hinz, who's just going through turn 11 now. So that is the back of the lead lap cars as Kurt Stenberg brings it in. It looks like Bailey Frid's also in as well. And, well, we'll see then what goes on between those two. Is side-by-side action between DPR and Synergy. It looks like might be Jack Briggs and Boyd. Jack Boyd in the Synergy Commodore and Adam Briggs, number 72 Mustang. And the over-under here attempt at least from Jack Boyd doesn't work out for him on the exit phase. We'll see what he does at turn 7. Let's go to a virtual racing school replay because something's happened here with Jack Boyd. It looks like a move getting made on him by one of the pursuit cars. That's the number 35, and oh my goodness, Boyd. Well, he was being nice and he gave the room, but ultimately, if you lose grip on the fronts and you're already wide off the racing line, the wall is the only place you can go.
Yeah, all the marbles out there, which will only grow ever more present as the race goes on. This is a big pit stop from inside the top 10, Richard Hampstead.
First driver in the top 10 to go for a stop here.
And the rest, TTR.
Yeah, indeed. We've got Lee Ellis, Andrew Dyson in there too. Brady Myers. And Jack Boyd, obviously, after that appointment with the wall, will be looking to get a little bit of damage repaired at the very least. So, out then of the lane is Hampstead, 13.6 second stop time. Brady Myers, 15.8 seconds. So either there was a delay in getting the tyres on or he's taken quite a bit more fuel. He has lost out to Emily Jones, Jordan Ross, Chris Coxhead and Corey McFarlane, but he does come out ahead of his teammate Lee Ellis. Jack Boyd, 18.1 seconds in the lane, and that would have been to repair some damage as well.
Andrew Dyson was stationary for 18.2 seconds as well. So a really long stop for him. Shortest stop we've seen was from Chris Coxhead, a 10.4 second stop.
Yeah, so I'm thinking that he's going to be coming in earlier than everyone else for the second stop and then go long to the end. We'll see where that gets him. Phil Sell and Caruso, the gap's still at about a second, and Caruso even gaining a little bit into the corners here on the three-time champion. It's two generations of Scops drivers here up at the front. Phil Sell, of course, a long-time competitor in this series in its first 5-6 years. And, well, Jake Burton there, another veteran of the series, and he is in the lane for quite some time, as has James Scott. They've decided to bring it in. Adam Briggs makes his way in too. But Caruso's part of the, I guess, the new guard of drivers that's coming in over the last couple of years, really finding success as Brenton Hobson is in the lane as well. It's good to see Jordan up here. You know, he's certainly shown that he can fight with the likes of Richard Hampstead and Madison Down, and this will be one of the first times he's actually raced Jared Phil Sell this season. I believe Jared did make an appearance at Sebring, but that ended in the wall for him.
Yeah, good to see Jared popping up, showing us all he's still alive, doing some racing again, and Jordan will relish the chance to race against him. And it'll be interesting to see how this one plays out between the United car and the Altus machine. Here we are, Jordan Sinney and Jake Burton.
And Burton makes his way past Sinney, who has yet to come in for a pit stop. He's the lowest running car that has yet to pit is Geordie Sinney, so I think that's the wise decision to make there, letting Burton go. He obviously has A, the pace advantage, B, the tyre advantage. Caruso, 0.872 made up there, and it's 0.7 of a second between himself and Phil Sell. Now that the fuel load is getting light and the tyres are maybe starting to drop off a little bit, Caruso's really dialed up the pace here, and he's continuing to harass the back of Jared Phil Sell, which I'm interested to see how this lead battle ends up playing out through the pit stop cycle. Which of these guys is going to blink first?
And we are only on lap 16 of 53. Still much to play out in this one. When will these two elect to pit? If Caruso knows he's got the pace, and he starts to get held up now by Phil Sell, would the smart thing to be to pit earlier? Get himself into some cleaner air, hopefully. Put down quick laps by himself and leapfrog Phil Sell that way.
Yeah, the good old undercut might... oh, here we go. That's it. That's the dive from Philsell and the dive from Caruso. Saw him going in and thought, hello, I'm following you in, mate. Let's continue this battle. So it's going to be a fight of the pit crews between Altus and United as Cooper Webster goes through to take the lead. These guys are joined on the pit lane by Gilliam, Anderson, Down, and Greg Galt. Ethan Warren moves back through and up into second place here. And we only have 6 drivers, I believe, yet to come in for their first pit stop. So then, Phil Sellers out, but Caruso still in the lane there. That's a pretty long stop there for Jordan, to the tune of about 2 seconds over Jared Philsell. He does hold on to overall second place once everyone's gone through the pits, but Richard Hamstead, it looks like, has jumped James Scott as, oh my goodness, this is looking tight here. Andrew Gilliam, Jake Burton, Madison Down, and Josh Anderson all together here on the same bit of road. Gilliam goes defensive, Anderson, Down, and Burton have to fall into line behind, but this is going to get really intense.
They're almost splitting this race directly in 3, aren't they, by pitting on lap 17 and towards lap 18. On board with Jake Burton as they all fight out of pit lane, and he had to just delay when he got onto the throttle. Then he had a wiggle as well as he came over the crest. They're on the back straight now in live pictures. Anderson wants to have a crack at Andrew Gilliam, but he's just not quite there. Gilliam gets all over the curb though and 2-wheels it his way through turn 7. Anderson trying to cut back and drive underneath. He does that. He gets there. Careful not to drive into him. Just enough room given. Wheel to wheel through the left-hander. And Gilliam holds on.
That's the kind of racing we like to see here at Belle Isle. You know, Gilliam, he was slightly compromised there out of turn 8. That allowed Anderson the opportunity to get alongside him through the double left-hander, but Gilliam able to defend beautifully as James Scott, I believe, bringing his way out of the pits there. Jake Maloney is the current leader, and the last car left to pit. It's Cooper Webster that came out of the pits there, and it looks to me like Webster has beaten Caruso out. So that long stop there for Caruso has really hurt him.
Caruso in the lane was 4.4 seconds slower than Philsell and Webster. As up the inside goes Anderson. Sorry, no, that's not Anderson.
That's Warren, Ethan Warren on Emily Jones there.
I saw TTR in a blue car and thought, but no.
Oh no, Jones!
Into the concrete and collected by Jordan Ross. It looks like bad spot.
Oh, that's the United car of Kyle George that's collected her there, and this might be a safety car. This might be a safety car here. If Jones can't get it going, it looks like she can. Everyone else able to find their way around her. That's a shame there for Emily. She was doing so well there. Get on the virtual racing school replay with Ethan Griggold behind her. So Warren ended up making the move here at turn 3, which is all well and good. It was a pretty textbook maneuver there from Ethan Warren, but Ethan Griggold saw the opportunity and started harassing the back of Jones. Let's see if there was contact between the two of them. Yes. Ethan Griggold going right into the back of Emily Jones, and she catches the wall and ends
Ross,
up hitting
George. Kyle George was the secondary impact right there.
Yeah, George would have come around the corner. He would have gotten the warning from his spotter that there was a slow car ahead, but with the walls as close as they are, he would have had no idea Jones was there until he'd already committed to the corner and started accelerating. Whoops-a-daisy. There you go.
And now she is limping back to the pits. Steering arm is bent, that's for sure.
Poor Emily Jones. Good enough for a top 10 here at Belle Isle, but that won't be happening for her today. She's going to be spending quite some time there in the lane, probably filling it up as much as she can to try and go as long as possible.
Rigault might have a penalty for that.
Yeah, he might just. It was a pretty clear-cut case of just a little bit too late on the brakes and then properly rear-ending the McLaren Shadow machine. Gilliam and Anderson, meanwhile, for 7th and 8th at the moment on track, and these guys have been battling hard for the last couple of laps. James Scott there just up ahead of them. And We've also got championship leader Madison down up there behind them as well. Madison not making big moves at the moment. He knows how difficult this circuit is to pass on, and he knows that if he bides his time and gets the strategy right, he might be able to pick up a few positions that way. Oh no, another car spun, and that's in the middle sector, I think. Corey McFarlane, the drop bear car that we were focusing on in practice, and it looks like the engine's just blown as he's gone to get going. So this might be another safety car if he can't get it going, and it looks like he can, but giving the wall another little kiss as well on the way.
The greatest.
No. So he has stopped. We'll get a virtual racing school replay of that and confirm whether or not race control decide to bring the safety car out. So what happened to him here? Looks like rear moment, Job Stewart in the pursuit car. As McFarlane went to turn in, Stewart was alongside. He had a little bit of overlap. Well, probably not alongside, but my goodness, he got pitched straight into the wall and got collected by a couple of cars on the way there. So Corey McFarlane probably none too happy with Job Stewart for that.
And safety car is out. One car has not pitted, and that is Jake Maloney.
Well, this could be a good opportunity here for Jake Maloney to lose as little time as possible in the pits under safety car conditions. I believe the pits remain open here, and Jake Maloney duly dives into the pits to get his stop done. He's going to gain some very good net positions from this.
Yeah, but well, everyone can blaze around as fast as they can.
Yeah, they can, but at the same time, you got to think if he had pitted earlier in those green flag conditions, he might have lost a little bit more time. There's actually quite a few drivers coming into the pits now for a second stop.
Who's that?
Oh dear, it looks like that's Job Stewart, who turned around Corey McFarlane just before, stopped out on track for some reason. But the pit lane is a hive of activity right now. Look at all these drivers in.
Everyone trying to take their second mandatory pit stop. Well, presumably because they can get to the end from here. Webster's beaten Caruso out, and Phil Sell loses to both of them. Third out of the pit lane.
Oh, okay, that's big for the race result. Maloney remains in the lead after pitting, so with everyone else deciding to go for their second stop, Maloney holds on to the lead. He is going to have to come back into the pits again at some point, though, so I will concede that point, Ryan. He's probably going to lose out quite a bit from this.
Yeah, hasn't worked out well for him. So, Maloney, your race leader, one stop short from Webster. Caruso, Phil Sell, who is be another big loser from this safety car period. Hampstead now P5. Burton, Scott, Anderson, Gilliam, Warren, your top 10. You can see why Phil Sell lost out. Look at his stop time compared to the two Altus boys. 5 seconds longer.
Yeah, goodness me.
4 seconds. Yeah.
That is... And hearing from our director, Jay Kennedy, that there's absolutely no revs coming out of the Altus cars, so they know that they've fueled it a bit short here, and they might be running on fumes towards the finish. So safety car, a good opportunity here to save a bit of extra fuel for the run towards the finish. So let's see if Altus Esports can hold on to that. They will have to probably do a bit of lift and coasting in the second half of the race, but if they can nail this restart, get it done on Phil Sell, then they might be well in the box seat to take at least a 1-2 here. And Job Stewart still stopped out on circuit, curiously, probably waiting for the call from race control. And where is that? It looks to be on the exit of turn 2. So I'm not too sure why he's decided to stop at that point, whether he's had a hardware issue or the temperatures have gone up in the car or something like that. The field's about to make their way past him. I think once the safety car and the rest of the field moves by, then they'll be able to get Job Stewart off the circuit back into the lane.
Either way, his day is done. Along with Corey McFarlane, he'll get a penalty for that. I would say without a doubt.
Yeah, if he doesn't get penalised for that, then I'd be very surprised because, you know, I think there just wasn't enough overlap for him to get the move done there. Well, yeah, there was overlap, but not a huge amount, is my point.
The overlap was about as wide as...
Probably a rear bumper.
Yeah, not much, is it? In NASCAR, that's enough to come out a whole corner, but not enough. Not enough in SCOPS. Now, did you hear that call from Race Control then?
I did not. I don't run in-sim voice chat to just keep myself in the game when I'm commentating. So what was said?
I don't know. So I asked you.
Okay, all right.
I think someone crossed a pit exit line.
Yeah, the
or
pit
a pit entry line.
The pit exit is closed when the field is going by. So obviously a driver has either a driver has come out of the pits while the field's been going by when pit exit is closed, or they're just alerting drivers to the fact that the pit lane is indeed closed. But it looks to me like safety car lights still on. I don't know if we're going to be going green this time by. We're just waiting for the rest of the field to form up here behind Maloney. We should be going green next lap.
I would think they'll be able to make it home from here. They did 27 laps in Split 2. And there is 20... Thanks, Jay. 31 laps to go from here.
Yeah, and I've just done a little calculation myself. The fuel tank in these cars is 111 litres. There's no fuel tank restriction for this round. And at Madison Downs' VRS fuel usage rate of 3.16 a lap, that should give you 35 laps of fuel. So all of the drivers that pitted in the last couple of laps should be good to get home. The Altus cars might be borderline, though, considering how much they're saving.
Better safe than sorry. But if you're Jake Maloney, you are wishing you had done things differently.
Yeah, that safety car actually came out at a pretty good time for the majority of the field, didn't it?
Majority. I think if you're Maloney, you still fight for this lead. Because the more he holds up these two Altus cars, the more it's going to help his teammates deeper in the pack. A United car in third, Phil Cell, but then Richard Hampstead's fifth, or a net fourth, once Maloney disappears. So backing these guys up is only going to be beneficial to his teammates. So I don't expect Maloney to just roll over here.
Yeah, I don't expect it either. Maloney is a tenacious racer himself and has great pace in these cars. Hasn't been quite reflected this round, but he can certainly get it done when he's racing out there in regular rounds. So lights are off on the OSR safety car driven by Nick Parker. And we should be going green this time by. It's going to be up to Maloney to really get the moves done here. Parker's going to pull away from the rest of the field and give Maloney the chance to form everyone up behind him. And the question is, when is he going to go? Because you can pretty much go anytime you like once you're on the start-finish stretch. How long does Maloney hold the throttle? Does he take the Altus cars and Jared Filsell by surprise? Is he coordinating with Richard Hampstead this start here? Maloney goes early before the pit lane and starts pulling a gap on Cooper Webster as they come round across the line, starting lap 24 of 53. We're just about past half race distance in the next couple of laps. Maloney holding on very nicely, but Cooper Webster is starting to reel him back in as they get onto the straight. Single file running from the majority of the field. It's a look from Webster. He's going to move up the inside here of Maloney. Does Maloney defend it? No, he leaves a bit of space on the inside, and Webster gets alongside to go for the lead. They try to hold the issue through turns 4 and turns 5. Maloney holding on to the lead. It's given a chance here to Jared Filsell to get around the outside of Jordan Caruso at turn 5, and he gets the move done into turn 6. Richard Hampstead sees the door open on the inside too and tries to go for it.
This is exactly why I said Maloney was going to fight, because already it's given advantage to Hampstead trying to get by Caruso. Can he keep the overlap for turn 7 in the braking zone? Yes, he can. Diving it in there, up and over the curb, up and towards, they make contact, and Caruso gets squeezed into the fence. He's going to lose out to Jake Burton as well, but Burton locks up the inside left front and runs wide. Now here comes James Scott on the inside, edging Burton out wide. They make contact, the track is blocked behind them.
Oh,
This
that's
is a safety car.
That's huge. Andrew Gilliam was involved in that. Who else? My goodness. We got Ethan Warren, Thomas Hins, Brett Loxton, Adam Briggs, Sean Linsell, Geordie Sinney. My goodness, Brenton Hobson, Bailey Frid, and Ethan Griggolt involved in that smash as well. That is absolutely huge. Big pile up, but it looks like we are staying green for now.
Oh.
All drivers involved able to get going miraculously.
I still wouldn't call that fair to keep that green, but oh well. Well, sucks if you were behind that.
Yeah, absolutely. My goodness, there was just nowhere for these drivers to go. And how did that incident even start? We had Adam Briggs up there, airborne in the DPR machine. So let's see what happened. Briggs, already missing his rear wing. Oh, there was contact there between Griggolt and Warren, and then Gilliam got spun around by, I don't know if that was Blake Purdy. It might have been. And then from then on, there was nowhere for any of the drivers to go.
To live pictures, and you'll see Jared Filsell hard on the attack on Cooper Webster and getting into him. Oh no, bang! Cooper Webster's just fired Maloney into the fence.
Oh dear.
Hit from Jared Filsell in the braking zone, and as a result, Hampstead's trying to squeeze up his inside. Here's the replay on your screen. Right there was the contact, and you can see it fire Caruso straight on.
Oh man, that's a shame there. Indeed. Let's have a look at the onboard here from Jared Filsell, or from Caruso looking back at Filsell. Oh, just a bit of a hit there, and once that momentum, that extra momentum was given to Caruso, there was nothing that could be done. Sorry, Webster. Yeah, we keep getting the eldest drivers confused, don't we? It is Webster who is now into the lead of this race with Jared Filsell in second, Caruso third. Jake Burton has managed to move up into fourth in the midst of all of that, pipping Richard Hampstead with the clutter that happened after that incident between Filsell, Webster and Maloney. Oh, a little bit of grass there for Webster on the entry to turn 4, sorry. He'll want to avoid that mistake pretty soon. But Webster, he's got a bit of side damage now from getting fired into Jake Maloney. But he's holding on pretty well to this lead from Jared Filsell by 0.6 of a second, as it's pretty tough here behind Andrew Gilliam, one of the drivers recovering from that big pile-up we saw a lap ago and trying to make his way past Sean Linsell in the 554 and manages to get it done around the outside of turn 5 and up the inside for turn 6. And then you also got the 440 of Geordie Sinney making it on that is Geordie Sinney, isn't it? The 440 is, and wow, have a look at this, 3 wide, and Sinney going up the inside of Gilliam, but that's a bit too narrow there for turn 7, sends Gilliam almost into the wall. Gilliam manages to slow it up and keep it done, but man, I don't know how race control are going to look at that move from Sinney. Is there's a car stopped by the side of the circuit? That's one of the Zuva cars. That's Chris Coxhead.
He was in that crash, I think, at that point of the circuit a couple laps ago.
Okay.
Ethan Griggolt has been given a penalty.
That would be for causing that pile up. Actually, this is what happened to Coxhead. He blew the engine there. As you can see, that's Thomas Hins making his way past him. So Coxhead.
Car.
Yep, there we go. Safety car for that one. And this is going to be the opportunity for Maloney then to jump into the pits and lose as little time as possible. But he'll be still a fair few positions down from where he'd want to be, thanks to that slight tap from Jared Filsell coming into turn 7.
And Job Stewart given a penalty as well for his part in the incident with Corey McFarlane on lap 19.
Well, better late than never for a penalty like that for Job Stewart. These guys then have a bit more of an opportunity to save some fuel in the Altus cars. They're still going around at a reasonable amount of speed, but I would think that they're still short shifting and clutching in the braking zones because they know that in their previous pit stop they did fill quite a bit shorter than Jared Filsell did. Wondering if it was a mistake from Filsell putting a bit too much fuel in, or these guys just absolutely nailing when they wanted to come into the lane.
Well, don't forget, Filsell's first stop was shorter. So he did have to make up for lost time on his second stop in terms of fuel.
Yeah,
if I'm not mistaken.
No, you are not mistaken. Phil Sell's first stop, I think, was shorter. So let's see if he's still a factor coming into this final stage of the race. But the safety car back out again. Nick Parker's getting his money's worth here today as Maloney takes his second mandatory pit stop. 11.3 seconds stop time, as you can see. And that's going to put him out just behind Bailey Frid there in 24th position. So Maloney has an awful lot of work to do here to try and get back up into the top 10, and I don't think that's going to be possible from this point.
You know, I think Jared Filsell might be in a bit of danger of an actual penalty coming his way. Because he is the cause of an incident with Jake Maloney, isn't he?
Yeah, that he is. I'm wondering if race control are deliberating over that as we speak. That would certainly be a hard pill to swallow for Jared Filsell after the great pace that he's shown so far today. But we'll have to wait and see if a decision ends up coming in from race control.
So Maloney dropped down. Where is he? Oh, there he is. 18th.
Righto, so he's ended up making up a couple more. Started in 16th, currently 24th, and in terms of in terms of safety car numbers, we did run a poll in the YouTube chat a bit earlier. The results came in about 20 minutes ago, and guess what the winning option was? 2 safety cars.
That's what I guessed.
Yes. So we have 2 safety cars. 18% of voters voted 3 or more safety cars in this race. So there's still chance for you guys to end up winning the bet, coming home with the underdog option. It's actually the least votes out of any of the options that people voted for. So let's see then if we get at least one more safety car here in the last 25 laps of what has already been quite a chaotic race at Belle Isle.
And of course, winning that poll grants you a huge grand prize of nothing.
Absolutely nothing.
Maybe one day SimSpeed will be big enough that we can sponsor those polls and give out 3 donuts.
Donuts would be nice. I do feel
what
like a donut.
Arrived at. A donut in celebration of a race win, a donut in celebration of a poll guessed right. Stage Scott's going to come in this lap. My sentence was disrupted by Jay then in the background of our headsets. The incident between Filsell, Cooper and Maloney is under review, so they are looking at that. But the safety car is coming in this lap.
That it is. So we're getting off to another start here very soon. Cooper Webster is going to lead the charge into turn 1. Let's see if Jared Filsell is right on the money here, albeit with a potential penalty hanging over his head. The safety car is going to pull into the pits, and let's see then when Cooper Webster decides to go through turns 12 and turns 13. He saw how early Maloney went on the last restart. He might want to repeat that. Let's see then. The field forms up behind. Filsell right on the bumper, but Webster puts the power down. Filsell does manage to stay with him, but oh my goodness. Jake Burton, an excellent start there round the outside of Jordan Caruso at turn 1, inside for turn 2. What a move that Burton's trying to make here. Manages to keep the power down, but Caruso's going to fight him here into turn 3 as Hampstead going defensive versus James Scott just behind. Caruso still has the overlap on Burton. He can take this corner. And does he give room on the outside? He does indeed. Burton stays with him. Let's see if Caruso secures the maneuver. He does indeed, defends that position, but Jake Burton is looking very racy right now, and what this has done is it's allowed our top 2 to get away. These guys are going to be encountering Andrew Gilliam at some point, perhaps. Gilliam is about halfway around the circuit at the moment, coming up to the last couple of turns. Here comes Filsell on Cooper Webster. Can he get it done around the outside to turn 7? Webster's just ahead as they get to the turn-in point. Filsell has to back out of it.
that was a fantastic restart for Jake Burton, as race control hands a black flag to Bailey Frid for the lap 24 incident. But that's a mistake from Webster. Philsell gets underneath him and gets the better exit, and he's going to just about complete this move. By the time they get to turn 12, Webster cannot hold it around the outside there, and Jared Philsell is back into the lead of this race here at Belle Isle at V8SCOPS.
Fantastic move there from Philsell. Webster just went a bit too deep into turn 11, and Philsell did the classic over-under maneuver to get back into the lead. So now this means that the battle for second is going to be quite intense. I'm expecting Philsell to just put the hammer down and try and streak away from the Altus duo of Webster and Caruso. Burton's having to defend from Hampstead, and those guys have been around each other quite a bit over the years in V8SCOPS. With Hampstead also defending from the likes of James Scott. So it's very tense running here as we begin to enter the last half of this race.
Side by side, exiting the corner. That's James Scott caught up on the outside. Blake Purdy pushing Joshua Anderson. 2 cars better than 1, it seems, down the straight line. But look how deep Scott goes on the brakes around the outside of 7, but he gets pushed out into the concrete by Purdy. And Myers forced out wide into the concrete by Scott. And he's going to lose 4-5 spots by that and filter in behind Kobe Jones.
Kobe Jones has been having a really good run, actually. Started in 27th, but that's not a good run for him. He went a bit too deep into 11, into the tyre barrier. Commentators curse very quick.
He was by... Who are we just talking about?
Brady Myers, the number 22. Yes, get a virtual racing school replay of that. Myers, of course, just sent into the wall. He was looking to try and make up some more positions, but you see him there just getting into the back of Jones and then sending him into the tyre barrier. And that is, oh God, something to the tune of 7 positions lost there for Kobe. He's back down in 20th place, but it's still a pretty good gain for him after starting in 27th. 7 positions gained. Our biggest mover in the field so far is Thomas Hinz. He is up 20 positions, and remember, Hinz was one of the first drivers to come in for that first mandatory pit stop, and he's managed to make his way up wonderfully now up into 15th place. But Jared Philsell still holds on to the lead up the front. He hasn't quite been able to get away from Webster and Caruso.
Penalty for Ethan Grigault for his part in an incident with Ethan Warren. So the penalties keep coming from race control. Top 3, nothing separating them. Make up the top 4. Jack Burton right there as well. Hampstead not too far away. Still a bit of a freight train, really, the whole field at this stage, this soon after a restart. Philsell not pulling away by any stretch of the imagination.
Starting lap 33 then. At the end of this lap there will be 20 to go, and it seems that Philsell just a slight bit of pickup of the revs over the bump on the exit of turn 2. That section of the circuit is especially challenging in these cars. It seems that he's being harassed quite a bit by these 2 Altus cars. This is something that Philsell will be used to, getting chased from behind. But he's holding on very nicely up at the front, just keeping it out of the wall. That's what you got to do around Belle Isle. And a great exit onto the back stretch, actually gaining on Cooper Webster out of that turn. So no chance of a move here coming into turn 7 for any of these drivers. But Webster, I saw a little bit of a slide into the braking zone for him. He's pushing incredibly hard. Remember, those Altus cars probably running a little lighter fuel load than the United 94. So there's going to be a little bit more squirreliness from that as we look further back in the pack. Got Lee Ellis battling with Brady Myers, and we're riding on board with Jake Maloney, who, thanks to that tap from Jared Philsell, got put into the wall at turn 7, trying to look for a position here on Geordie Sinney. He actually has made it back up into 18th position, just 2 positions away from where he started. So it's been good for him this next restart, managing to gain very nicely. But let's see if he can get by Cine in the next couple of laps. Back up the front, looks to me like the fastest car on track this lap was Joshua Anderson in P6. Phil Sell and Webster, you could barely put anything between them. A 1 minute 30.044 for Phil Sell, 1 minute 30.087 for Cooper Webster. And Webster has the fastest lap of the race so far with a 29.5. So still remains to be seen whether or not these Altus guys can overcome the might of the 3-time champion.
Caruso all over the back of Webster, more so than Webster on Phil Sell. Much like the first stint of the race, I think the Altus boys wouldn't be that disadvantaged by switching themselves around here. I think the faster of them is now the one trailing. Jake Burton's falling off them, so he doesn't quite have the same pace to match them, not for more than a couple of laps at a time it seems, because he's not lasted very long since this restart. Phil Sell, bit by bit, just edging micro margins over Webster.
And that's what makes all the difference here, as it looks like we've confirmed a retirement for Emily Jones. She's disconnected from the server. Huge shame for Emily. Really was hoping to see her up there tonight at Belle Isle. But the top 3 keeping each other very honest out there. As you say, the faster of the 2 Altus cars does seem to be Jordan Caruso, but only by 400ths on the previous lap. You'd think that if there was a little bit more clear air ahead of him, he might be able to extract a few more tenths out of it. See if he can pull that assault on Jared Filsell, but you see the gap that Filsell's starting to pull now. I think if Caruso doesn't make a move soon, then it could be the win out of the question for Altus if Filsell doesn't end up getting a penalty. Here we go, and just like that, Jared Filsell has been given a black flag by race control for the incident on lap 25, tapping Cooper Webster into Jake Maloney. So Filsell is going to be quite unhappy with that turn of events, but seems like it was pretty clear cut to us up here in the commentary box, giving a tap to a car that then gets sent into another car. And Filsell has a bit of time still to take that penalty. He doesn't go into the pits this lap, but we should expect him in within the next 3.
So, that now puts the battle for the race lead at Cooper Webster and Jordan Caruso. And it's the teammates that will duel it out. Jared Filsell will be utterly disappointed with that, and he will probably disagree with that as well.
Oh yeah.
But for sure, I think it's the right call. He made a mistake, as small as it was, and it resulted in a car getting taken out of this race. And now it looks as if, well, and now he's going to have to pay the price for that. It just looked as if he was slowing up a bit there through the corner.
Yeah, well, I did notice that he did get into the grass on the exit of turn 3, so might be struggling a bit with rhythm with the news of that penalty. He's backing himself into these 2 Altus cars. Jake Burton starting to gain on these 3. The lights flashing for Cooper Webster. Trying to distract Filsell, gives him a little tap into turn 11. But Filsell gets the exit down. Just a couple more turns to go and they'll be at the entry to the pits. So let's see if Filsell decides to go for it on this particular occasion.
I bet you he won't.
All right, let's see who wins that bet. You do win that bet. Filsell out of the pits once again.
Yeah, he's going to try to back Webster and Caruso up here and make himself as big a pain as possible. You know, as soon as he got that penalty, his pace suddenly dropped off the face of the earth. And Webster appeared on his bumper. Watch his mid-corner speed. Non-existent.
Yeah, if anything, missing the apex of turn 3 slightly. So this has really closed up the battle for the lead. The effective lead between Webster and Caruso, with Burton now right on the back of these guys, and Webster pushing Phil Sell into turn 6, nearly makes contact with the rear bumper of the number 94. How long will Phil Sell hold out before he finally comes in and takes that penalty? I would imagine this lap will be his last opportunity to do so before race control hand him some further penalties.
Especially if he continues to back the pack up.
Oh, here we go. Oh, Webster tapping Phil Sell wide, and that's what you get. And there goes Jordan Caruso up the inside of Cooper Webster to take the race lead. At turn 12,
no.
Burton gets into Webster and sends him into the wall. That might be another penalty coming, because my goodness, that is a bad spot of the track. Oh, another Altus car being collected. I think that was James Scott. Webster, oh, head-on collision. That is huge. And who was that? That was the number 18 of Lee Ellis. Oh my goodness. So then, Jared Philsell goes into the pits to take that penalty, albeit missing his bonnet, and oh man, Cooper Webster, how would you be if you were him? I mean, it's twice now that he's been involved in an incident, but this time he's the most disadvantaged by it. We'll get it, the virtual racing school replay right here. See how it went down. So Webster had already given that tap to Phil Sell. Burton, I think, saw the door open into turn 12 and thought, I'll go for this, but he just misjudged. And that's collected the Trans-Tasman cars behind, all of which are now carrying damage. And this is the view on board from Lee Ellis.
The entire scenario was caused by Jared Philsell's times dropping by approximately a full second as soon as the news of his penalty was delivered to him. So take that how you will.
Well then, back to live pictures, and looks to me like, I don't know if there's going to be a safety car call for this, because Lee Ellis has stopped right by pit entry there. Of course, having that head-on collision with Cooper Webster.
Just got called.
There we go. Safety car will come out. So the at least 3 voters in the safety car poll come away the victors ultimately. And we got drivers in at the pits as well. James Scott, Ethan Grigol, Job Stewart. James Scott, of course, missing his front end now after that collision with the stricken Cooper Webster. Jake Burton up into second place now as a result of all of that. But it's likely that he'll be having a penalty hanging over his head as well.
Yeah, Burton's going to cop a penalty, which is a shame, almost. Burton put his car in a place he shouldn't have put it. But that scenario shouldn't have existed anyway. They all were congested for no reason, really.
Yeah.
Webster was forced into a desperate maneuver by a car that was a lot slower than it had been previous laps.
Well, let's see how this shakes up the race. It's Caruso, Burton, Hampstead, Anderson, and Purdy, your top 5. Jordan Ross, the top synergy car in P6. He's had a really good race as Jordan Ross, making up 9 positions in the midst of that. Madison Down, by comparison, has not moved a huge amount. He has still gained 2 positions, but he's still been a little anonymous in this race here at Belle Isle. We've been focusing quite a bit on these very intense battles for the lead and in the midfield, which means our championship leader, well, it's still going to be a good run for him, for Madison. He'll still be picking up a good amount of points to try and keep his championship lead. But if Richard Hampstead ultimately comes home in second, if there's a penalty for Burton, then that's going to really tighten up the championship battle between those two.
Yeah, it's certainly going to be a spicy one. And this restart's going to be interesting too. With Jake Burton expected to have a penalty, how hard will he fight? We know he's an aggressive racer anyway, so he's going to go and take the fight to Caruso. Richard Hampstead now in with a chance, being in third. But Caruso, I feel, has got the natural pace to run away from all of these guys.
Yeah, I'd say so. This is going to be crucial here for Jordan Caruso. If he's going to be able to get the restart down pat. He's already had plenty of examples so far of how to conduct a restart here. So with 13 laps to go, when they begin the race, re-begin the race, I suppose, with the safety car now getting ready to pull away from the field, it's going to be an out-and-out sprint to the finish. Looks like none of these drivers involved are going to have to pit again for fuel. In terms of stops, everyone doing the minimum 2 mandatory stops down to P16. Kobe Jones, Ben Christensen and Brenton Hobson have been in the pits 3 times, 4 times for Jared Filsell now with that penalty, and Kyle George with the most pit stops out of anyone. He's been in the lane 7 times in this race and still managing to, well, actually, he's moved up into P24 now with Andrew Gilliam in the pits for quite some time, 50 seconds now. It looks like Andrew Gilliam might be a retirement from this one, which would be a shame to see, considering he was fighting in the top 10. No, not a retirement. He's taken some extra service and a bit more damage repaired. James Scott, though, 5 minutes, 300 seconds in the box, so he's got plenty of damage to be repaired, as has Cooper Webster, missing the front and rear ends of that car. And this will very much sting for those 2 Altus drivers. Not only have they missed out on some great points for themselves and the team, but they're not going to be able to help Jordan Caruso out there when he gets this race back underway. So Caruso, Burton, Hampstead in the top 3, and Caruso goes early, starts to gap Jake Burton as they make their way through turn 14. We're back racing here at Belle Isle for what we hope is the final time. Let's see how Jake Burton can pressure Jordan Caruso. Tiny bit of a slide in turn 1. Manages to keep it out of the wall, as do all the drivers coming through. It's a reasonable single file start here. We do have a car around, though. It is Kobe Jones, and that is in the middle of turn 1.
He hasn't made it far, has he? He'll be disappointed by that.
But he will.
It's a good restart for your race leader, Jordan Caruso, over Jake Burton, Hampstead Anderson, Purdy, your top 5. Andrew Tyson into 8th place from 20th on their grid. Purdy's got a good run here on a damaged TTR car that is Joshua Anderson. He's missing his bonnet, is Joshua, so he's probably got some engine damage. But by the same token, so does Purdy.
Yeah, these two might start losing out a bit to Richard Hampstead if he can get this gap going, but it seems that Burton and Caruso are starting to run away here from the rest of the field, and Hampstead is carrying some damage there on the front left. Remember, he might have glanced off Cooper Webster when the move was made by Jake Burton at this section of the circuit. So out of the last couple corners they come, and as they come across the line, Caruso setting a 2 minute 13, 129.6, 1 minute 30.067 for Jake Burton. So for the time being, Caruso has the pace. And we're hearing of a drive-through penalty here for Brady Myers, and that would have been for incident earlier, I think, down at turn 11. He's going to have to almost let Jake Maloney go down the inside there. Actually, I think that's Jack Boyd that's let Maloney go there. Got Thomas Hinds in hot pursuit as well. We'll see where Myers comes out when he inevitably serves that penalty soon. Hempstead's really backing up the pack here, isn't he?
Yeah, he is. It's because his car is not quite that fast, is it? But he's got to this spot through keeping himself out of trouble, and he's gained positions, but he now finds himself ahead of drivers who are naturally a bit quicker than him, but they've got some engine damage, and it means that at the end of the straights that lead to turn 3 into turn 7, they're probably losing ground. Maybe aren't close enough to make a move, and as a result, they find themselves in an awkward spot where they're never quite close enough to have a go at him. but they're close enough that they're being held up through the rest of the track.
There's also the risk of the engine blowing when it's at really high revs at the end of the straight or on the downshift, but it looks to me like Anderson starting to creep up onto the back of Hampstead here, coming onto lap 43, and well, the exit of turn 2 belongs to both of them for the time being. Anderson pops out for a little bit of a look, and Hampstead lifting off, coming into the braking zone. Yeah, makes sense there.
But it's for the podium. Hampstead will certainly fight with Purdy here, Reese.
He will, and Hampstead almost gets out into the barrier there on the marbles. Purdy gets by him, and also looking to get by Hampstead is Jordan Ross. Gets squeezed on the exit. Hampstead gets bumped out wide coming into turn 6, and Jordan Ross gets it done, leaves Hampstead just enough room, maybe a little less, on the exit of 6. And championship leader Madison Down moves past Richard Hampstead now for position. That's going to be a gain in his championship points lead as he goes up the inside of Ross, and they both give each other room. Ross just moves ahead. Oh, and all the pack getting backed up into each other. Slight wiggles from Hampstead, Dyson, Myers, Maloney, Boyd. This is an incredibly tightly packed train of cars here now behind Richard Hampstead. Oh dear. This could be difficult here. Brady Myers up the inside of Andrew Dyson into turn 12. He does get it done, and oh goodness.
That's not a forsaking spot. And he finds that out the hard way, as now Jack Boyd gets a run on him. And into the pits comes one of those TTR cars, and a big dive from Thomas Hins on the inside of Jack Boyd. He actually made light contact with him. Somehow they get away with it. How is this run from Hins from 35th on the grid? He now sits 11th.
It could be 12th soon, because he's got Jared Philsell up alongside him into the braking zone as a move's made in the background. Geordie Sinney on Kurt Stenberg. Philsell gets by Hins. So that position sorted for now. Yeah, certainly. He hasn't indeed. He's actually down in the upper midfield at the moment is Jared Philsell, so he could still be on for some good points hauls here. Anderson and Purdy for 3rd and 4th. Purdy is in a fantastic position right now. This is even better than what he ran at Montreal at the start of the season. He could be on for a podium here. He just needs to keep those engine temperatures in check.
Hey, sir, I just saw something ironic. If Philsell hadn't backed the pack up, he'd actually be further up the order and inside the top 10 right now.
Yes, indeed. That's quite the ironic point that you make there, as Anderson continues to defend here from Purdy. The final position on the podium, on board with Jordan Ross in 5th place. He's got Madison Down right behind him, pressuring him hard. Red Banner, championship leader, and Jordan Ross will see that in his mirror, and he'll try his best not to let it psych him out. Jordan Ross has been racing these cars for quite some time, so he knows what it's like to be under pressure from fantastic drivers like Madison Down. And Ross, I think, can be very proud of the performance he's put on so far here at Belle Isle. Down pulls out to go for the outbraking at turn 3, moves ahead into the braking zone, is ahead by the time they get to the turn-in point, and he manages to slow it up enough to make the corner and get the move done. So Down now up into the top 5. If Anderson and Purdy keep battling like they are, Down could be on for a podium here.
Philsell's on for a podium.
Yeah? Oh, he's moved ahead of Dyson, or he's trying to at least. Dyson managing to keep him behind for now, but will Philsell be able to get the run here down the back stretch? He will indeed. Oh,
here we go.
Hello.
That's deep. He's gone too deep. Ugh. Great comeback. Both of them sliding and almost out of control. Anderson gets him back. The fight will go on.
It's an awesome bit of racing. And we're hearing a drive-through penalty for Jake Burton. That would be for the incident on Cooper Webster earlier. So that then will promote Anderson and Purdy into 2nd and 3rd. So Purdy on the podium, he's going to be happy with that. But Madison Down will still be looming in the background. Burton avoiding the pits. Again, I think he's going to play the Philsell game here. Wait a few laps before he jumps in for that penalty as Purdy goes up the inside of Anderson again into turn 1 and gets the move done for 3rd on track will be second after Burton serves his penalty. What's Madison Down going to do here? Anderson is on the headlight flash button, trying to psych out Purdy. Madison, with a clean car behind, certainly has the pace and a bit of a fresher car too.
This will upset a few people. Cooper Webster's been given a post-race penalty for his role in the incident with Jared Filsell.
Oh.
For causing a collision.
I would say I can understand why that penalty was issued.
He was the net cause of... He was the root... Well, he did make the move.
He was the first domino to fall.
Yes. Here comes Madison Down on Joshua Anderson. He had a little look. He wasn't quite there to do it. He'll be keenly aware of Jordan Ross behind them. Richard Hampstead as well will be informing them that Jared Filsell is all over the back of him and eager to make moves.
So Filsell now properly back into the top 10 after carving his way through, and right on the back of Richard Hampstead, who he has battled with for championships in the past. Meanwhile, we check out Purdy and Anderson and Down making their way across the line. It is now 7 laps to go here at Belle Isle. It's all to play for. Down wants to get the maximum points haul he can before Enduro season starts in a couple weeks' time with the Imola 500. That's the next round of the championship. Then we go to Phillip Island for a 500-kilometre race, and then the Bathurst 1000 as Filsell looks like going up the inside of Richard Hampstead into turn 3. Move done. Game, set, and match. Oh dear, DPR car off into the runoff area behind. That is Andrew Dyson, who's come a cropper there. Just overshooting the braking zone. Still has a reasonably clean car, so he can be happy with that, but certainly not happy with losing all those positions. He's back down in 17th now.
Now that Burton's pitted, has elevated this group up a spot. Into the podium's final position is now held by Josh Anderson. Jordan Caruso's running away with this one, isn't he?
Yeah, it's exactly what he wants in this late stage of the race. Filsell is out of the picture. His teammates, unfortunately, out of the picture as well. So all Caruso needs to do is keep it together, keep it consistent around these concrete-lined streets, and he can come away for another SCOPS victory in due course. But the race is not over until it's over. There's still every chance for a mistake from some drivers, and a chance for some lap traffic as well, as Jake Burton makes his way into the pits to serve his penalty. And again, I think it's going to be an issue of a driver not quite agreeing with race control, perhaps. I know that Burton has come to blows with race control a few times in the past, but he duly serves that penalty, makes his way back out onto the track in P17.
Madison Down makes a move for P3 and gets it done. Championship leader up onto the podium once again.
You can always count on Madison Down to set the timing screens on fire in the last few laps of a race as he tries to make his way up from a position that he wouldn't necessarily expect. I think Madison can be very happy with how this night has gone for him. He's up 6 positions from where he started, showing he's a really good racer, as that looks like Filsell getting by Jordan Ross. That's another position for Jared Filsell. He's still got race-winning pace, has Jared, down here in the field.
Did I just see a Synergy SimRacing car pull over and let a United car drive by him on a straight line?
Yes, that is what just happened.
Why?
I don't know, maybe he sees that Filsell has really good pace and doesn't want to fight him too hard in these later stages, because you can see that Filsell is now right onto the back of Anderson and Down. Well, we're not in the cockpit with Jordan Ross. We don't know his thought process. As a TTR car, I think that might be Ella. Sorry, Anderson.
No, sorry. I was going to say Anderson is, though, going to fight this one.
Oh, yeah.
Because he'll want to help Madison Down out.
I'm sure. Let's see how he conducts his line. No, Filsell dives up the inside into turn 3, and Anderson lets him go. So now Madison Down doesn't have any help. Can Jared Filsell still finish on the podium despite this penalty? It would certainly be a fantastic drive if he could pull it off. What he needs to think about is the run into turn 3. That's where he's been making those moves.
I think maybe even P2 is achievable here. No, Blake Purdy's just up there.
So it could all still go off here in the final 5 laps of V8SCOPS at Belle Isle. You see Purdy just running a little wide out of turn 7. Still not entirely mistake-free, so we'll see if Phil Sell can push down into the position here, or if he ends up pushing down out of the way. It's a wider entry for Phil Sell. He's trying to get the straight line run down to turn 12. He has a little bit of a look at the championship leader, but elects to stay behind for now. And we'll wait for another lap, as it's going to be 4 to go now for Jordan Ross, as he, for Jordan Caruso, as he crosses the line. Phil Sell has to nail these 2 corners. Turns 1 and 2, but down, keeping a nice consistent line. The mid-corner speed is good. How good is Phil Sell on the throttle? Let's see. I think he's going to pull out for a maneuver here. Madison staying to driver's left. Phil Sell having a bit of a look. He thought once or twice about it, but decides to put it back in behind. Go for a move, either further on this lap or maybe on the next lap. Either way, Madison down, defending magnificently.
Once again, defense by attack, staying on the racing line and hitting his marks, and Madison Down's driving faster as a result of it. He's driving back towards Blake Purdy. They're 8.8 seconds off the race lead. It's all for the minor placings on the podium right now.
Blake Purdy will be sweating at the moment with a damaged car that could go pop at any time, and having 2 former champions of this series bearing down on him. Lap on lap on lap. Madison, the reigning champion. He's won SCOPS 2 times. Jared Philsell has been SCOPS champion 3 times. Richard Hampstead, the champion of the inaugural test season in 2014. But down in 8th place at the moment. It's a shame. He could have been up there in this podium battle if things had worked out a bit different for him. 3 laps to go now for Jordan Caruso. And Down continuing to cut that gap away, just shave little hundredths and tenths off it, lap on lap. Can Phil Sell go for the move this time? Looks like defensive from Purdy, at least for the time being. Down, trying to protect from Phil Sell, but Phil Sell alongside him in the braking zone for 3rd place. Phil Sell back onto the podium, overcoming that penalty in dramatic fashion.
That was a quick move to the racing line from Madison Down. Showed no hint of defending that time. Maybe he wants Phil Sell to go by him, go straight by Purdy, and Down will go by Purdy as well. Maybe that's his aim here, but either way, he's now got to make an overtake if he wants to finish on the podium in this race.
Light flashing for Phil Sell, and Purdy will be no stranger to that. He saw it from Anderson before. And a little bit wide there for Purdy. Phil Sell gets up the inside into the double left-hander. Can he get it done? Purdy's going to have the defensive line into turn 11. Do they make contact? Phil Sell gives him a good amount of room this time. Madison Down, though, sees the door open on the inside and wants to take this podium position back from Jared Phil Sell. And he does into turn 12, but he's got a bit crossed up, a bit of understeer. And Phil Sell back up the inside for turn 13. Have a look at this. It's bringing Anderson and Ross right back into the podium battle. They're going to cross it side by side with 2 laps to go. Phil Sell just maintaining the podium position.
Purdy's given some breathing room. He'll love that. He can breathe now, just a little easier, but suddenly Phil Sell's back behind him and he'll close that gap within a lap. Down. Showing his nose. Anderson defending from Ross. Ross gives him a little bump at the end of the braking zone. Purdy's gap's already been cut down just a bit. Look at three out of these 5 cars missing their bonnets from front end contact in this race. It's been a damaging race, this one.
Yeah, it's been brutal, eh? A lot of drivers coming away with getting knocked about quite a bit, but ultimately the best still stand on the top. And Blake Purdy, I think, one of the drivers of the race for me. The fact that he's been able to hold on for so long here to such a good position, stay out of trouble for the most part, take advantage of others' mistakes. Jared Filsell, though, might have the move on him here for second place. We'll see. Coming down to the braking zone for turn 12. Filsell up the inside of Purdy, and Purdy stays wide, lets him go. Filsell back up into P2, but with the final lap starting here for Jordan Caruso, there's no chance that Filsell's going to be able to take victory from this point. For Madison Down, though, he sees a podium back in his sights again. Can he make his way past Purdy? That is the big question on Down's mind.
That was a bold move at 12 from Filsell up the inside, forced Purdy to back out of it. Purdy's going to go defensive here. Down, deep on the brakes, around the outside, looking for the switchback, but Purdy's very good through the mid-quarter and keeps his speed up. It'll come down to turn 7. That's the big overtaking opportunity left for Madison Down here.
He's going to have to nail the exit from turn 6. Filsell's starting to gap Purdy here. You can see the pace difference between the two. Madison didn't get a magnificent exit that time around. Purdy's actually gained on him there, so there isn't going to be any chance of a move there for Down this time round. Filsell maintaining. It seems to me that with the lack of overtaking opportunities left, the only option Madison Down has here is if Purdy makes a mistake on the exit of turn 11. That looks like Trans-Tasman car. That's Ethan Warren, who's retired from the race here on the final lap. Big shame for him. But we go to the opposite of a big shame for Jordan Caruso. What a fantastic drive from the Altus Esports driver. His 4th V8SCOPS victory, and all of them coming through this year. Brilliant stuff from the number 12. Jared Filsell, another brilliant drive, I'd have to say. Despite the incident and that penalty, he still comes home for second. And Blake Purdy finishes 3rd, fending off Madison Down's advances. What a fantastic performance from Blake. I think we can come away from this round with a really good understanding of who is best placed coming into Enduro season. This is Linsell and his teammate coming together. Linsell getting into the barriers out of turn 11, and that's a shame for him on the final lap. Ultimately, he does keep it rolling and will come home.
Yeah. That'll be an awkward teammate discussion post-race.
Yeah, that it will, but the victory celebrations begin for Jordan Caruso, doing those burnouts on the exit of every corner, and Blake Purdy joining him there in the midst of these post-race celebrations. I think 3 drivers on the podium, all reasonably happy with their performances. Filsell probably a bit less so, because obviously he got that penalty, and that cost him the win as a result, but still, to finish in second place, it's some good preparation for the E-Series that's beginning soon, and I think that he can still be satisfied with the fact that he was able to get a top 2.
Yeah, it'll certainly stir the community.
Oh yeah.
It already has. It already has, if you have a look at YouTube. But, I mean, it was a good drive back through the field from Jared to get back up there after his drive through. It's a shame that the incidents before that, and a stellar drive from Blake Purdy as well to take 3rd. There's your 4 results, your top 3, Caruso, Filsell, and Purdy, Reese.
Indeed, covered by 10 seconds at the end of it. Caruso getting the benefit of a very big lead after penalties and incidents thereafter. Down comes home in 4th, and Anderson completing the top 5 with 2 TTR cars there. Jordan Ross, great performance for Synergy Sim Racing, comes home in 6th place. He likes these street circuits, doesn't he? With Jake Maloney and Richard Hampstead coming home 7th and 8th. Thomas Hinz, the biggest mover in the field. That is 26 positions gained to finish in 9th. Big props there to Hinzy, with Jack Boyd also making up big places to finish in the top 10.
Home in 11th, Kurt Stenberg and Andrew Dyson just beats out Ben Christensen and Brenton Hobson in the end. Home in 14th from the back of the field. Jake Burton, Geordie Sinney, Sean Linsell, Brett Loxton, Brady Myers, and Kirby Jones were your top 20.
Finishing in 21st, Bailey Frid and Bradley Vaughan as well. Our Split 2 winner coming home in 22nd. And then we got Kyle George and Andrew Gilliam, the last two finishers on the lead lap. And Gilliam obviously having to take another pit stop there towards the end. We get into retirement territory now. Ethan Warren started in 5th and was in the battle for the podium positions, but that incident on the last lap resulting in the retirement, 25th for him. Adam Briggs also retiring from this one, as well as Lee Ellis, James Scott and Cooper Webster, two big heartbreak stories there. They were in contention for the podium positions. It could have been a podium lockout for Altus if things had worked out a bit differently. Ethan Griggolt managed to get a penalty for causing that big pile up in the middle sector, and he ended up retiring about 25-ish laps from the end. Chris Coxhead and Job Stewart, 31st and 32nd.
Last couple of drivers were Tom Freer, McFarlane, Emily Jones, Aaron Dodd, and Wayne Burke. It was quite a race. We got through the first part without an incident, a major incident race, and we looked like we were set for a really clean one after an exceptionally clean split 2, but then we had 3 safety cars at the end. The typical safety car breeding a safety car to conclude things. But I think overall, pretty high quality for a street circuit tonight.
Yeah, I'd say so. Certainly entertaining for everyone out there, and those penalties for Jared Filsell and Jake Burton certainly generating some discussion. Before we step aside briefly and get into post-race coverage, there's a silly stat that our director has posted for us. 7 of the drivers in the top 10 have a first name starting with J. How about that? With that, we're going to step aside briefly here on SimSpeed TV, but don't go away. We'll be talking to the top 3 just after this.
Are you spending a lot of time looking for setups and struggling for faster lap times? Are you tired of searching online for answers? Would you like to get setups, analysis and tutorials from some of the best sim racers in the world like Ralph Alla, Mitchell de Jong, Martin Krunker, Josh Rogers and many more? If so, virtualracingschool.com is the answer you've been looking for. VRS data packs provide hot laps from our professional coaches for you to analyse and replicate. They provide tutorials that walk you through the fastest laps and what the pros did to achieve the best times. And they provide the setups you need to ensure your car is competitive in both oval and road racing. If you're ready to get faster and reach more podiums sooner than later, just go to virtualracingschool.com and sign up for a free account today. Are you new to sim racing, or maybe a veteran struggling to reach the next level? Have you ever wondered how the aliens reach impressive lap times that seem impossible to achieve? If so, you're not alone. Most drivers reach a certain level and get stuck. But getting faster on track is easier than you think. VRS coaches are some of the best sim racers in the world and offer one-on-one driver skills training at affordable rates to help new drivers learn the basics and help experienced drivers break through to the next level. Are you ready to get faster and get off the iRacing roller coaster? If so, VRS one-on-one personal training is for you. If you've invested in your equipment, it might be time to invest in yourself. Just go to virtualracingschool.com and sign up for a 30, 60 or 90-minute session with one of our world-class coaches, and you'll learn exactly what to do for faster lap times and more podiums. Are you spending a lot of time looking for setups and struggling for faster lap time?
Fantastic. This is GT racing right now. He's got traction. He's going in the outside. Both of them. Maloney. Oh, he's taken Anderson. Anderson's up to him. Oh my God. Big crash. Oh my goodness. Half the field's going to get involved.
Second very close. These guys I want to make their way through the field very quickly. Oh, here we go. Oh no. That's massive. This is it. This is over. I can't believe this. Oh my God.
God, what?
You're watching Virtual Racing School V8SCOPS Round 9 from Belle. What a race we just had. Certainly one of the most controversial rounds of the season, but we do like a bit of controversy before we get into Enduro season. It's time for driver interviews. Reese Gardner and Ryan Jones in the box, and the first driver that we're going to be talking to is our race winner, Jordan Caruso. Congratulations, Jordan, on a fantastic drive. Your 4th win in V8SCOPS. How does it feel to stand up on the top here at Belle?
Yeah, it's pretty exciting. Everything was going on in that race, like safety cars. Yeah, it was full on. But to come out with a win is, it feels good, especially considering the other 2 Altus cars are DNF. So to be able to get the win for the team, it feels good.
Yeah, it was a bit of a shame to see how things went down there for Cooper and James down below, but certainly, as you say, it's going to be a good feeling here to get some extra points on the board for the team in these Enduros. What was it like, working on the setup for this round here at Belle? Were you trying any tricks at Altus, and did you end up unlocking anything in the car that really helped you out?
No, not particularly. We sort of just had the same approach the whole year. I think at some point we lacked a bit of race pace, and I think we've got that sorted for sure. But no, nothing special for this round. We're sort of always just just trying to find little things to help us, as particularly in qualifying, especially so hard to pass, especially around tracks like this. But no, nothing special for this round. Just had the same approach all year, really.
Well, either way, the safety car certainly helped you guys out there. It came out at a very opportune time. It meant you could come into the pits and still have enough fuel to come home to the end. But we did notice that you guys were fuel saving a little bit under the safety car. Did you short fill?
I was fuel saving when I wasn't sure, and then I realized I still had plenty of fuel. So no matter what, I could have been flat out to the end and still made it. I think Jared he sort of backed off before we actually got into pit lane, so that was why we were able to get him. Me and Cooper were able to jump him. I think if it weren't for that, he probably still would have had the lead. And Cooper just got me. I think if I had like 2 less liters, which I definitely could have got away with, I would have jumped him in the pits. But yeah, at first I was sort of nervous that I wasn't going to finish, because I did short fill for what JRT said, but when I did the sort of calculations in my head, I realized I was more than safe.
Well, with that, you come home P1, and I guess the focus now moves to Enduros. Number 1, who are you sharing a car with for Enduro season? And number 2, how do you feel Altus is going to be doing at Imola?
I'm feeling pretty good about it, I think. Our pace has been consistently right up there all year. The TTR guys have been really strong, but I think particularly in quali, I think we've sort of had the edge on them. So yeah, I think we just sort of keep the same approach, and focus on driving and setup and all those things, and hopefully the results will come.
Hopefully the results will come indeed. Well, Jordan, sole Altus representative on the podium tonight, so the floor is all yours. Anyone you'd like to thank? Any shout outs or sponsors?
Massive thanks to all the guys who've helped throughout the week, James and Cooper in particular. Logitech G, Virtual Racing School, Race Tech, Cube Controls. I think there are a few others which I'm missing. Sam Blacklock Media. And yeah, huge shout out to Cooper and James who drove pretty well, but it was just unfortunate sort of the situation they were put in. But yeah, we'll come back stronger next one.
As I'm sure you will. That's Jordan Caruso and the number 12 winner of the round here at Belle. Next up, well, this is certainly going to be a spicy one. We're talking to Jared Filsell now, and he stood by with Ryan Jones.
Jared Filsell started on pole and he finished second. Firstly, are you happy with that result?
Yes and no. I kind of did it to myself, really, with the contact with Cooper, but in hindsight, I shouldn't have been back there. I lifted off under safety car and let them catch up a little bit, and then they jumped me in the pits. So, in hindsight, I should have been in front of them and not behind them. So, yeah, happy that I came back to finish second, but yeah, won a good recovery drive, but yeah, not the most ideal of circumstances to come back from like 20th or something. It was fun passing a bunch of cars though.
After you got that penalty for getting into the back of Cooper, why'd you back the field up?
Back the field up, did I? I was just out of control, to be honest. Bit of red mist, so yeah, wait and see. I'll have a look at the data at the tyre temps. Once I got the black flag there, you can clearly see I was out of control at a few corners, so yeah, have to wait and see at the data there.
Okay, just a bit of red mist from getting that black flag and lost your cool out at lead of the race. It's disappointed to lose that good track position, I guess.
Yeah, that's it, mate. Yeah. Once you get these tyres overheated, it's a handful at the best of times. So yeah, we'll have a look at the data. It'll be interesting to see the tyre temps in there, especially given a few lockups and whatnot. So wasn't driving the best after that, but that was cool to come back through the field. Thanks to Valvoline, Harrop Engineering, and Jamie McKnight and all those guys. They've done a really good job this week. Coached them a little bit to get a bit quicker, so happy to get some airtime.
Yeah, certainly. Hey, just what were your two views on those incidents? The first one that netted you the penalty, and the one that you sort of got shuffled back with that netted the penalty for Cooper.
Yeah, the first one with Cooper, yeah, that was my fault. Just completely stuffed up. That corner's so hard when you're under the rear wing of another car. I thought he broke a bit early, but my spotter said no, that's all on me. So I was waiting for the penalty to come. So yeah, wait and see. The second penalty, or the second instance, I'm not really sure. I kind of baited Cooper into that corner, one corner, or earlier in the race. So yeah, I was expecting him to dive there. It's a popular spot. He did it in the E Series as well. So we've all got long memories.
As I'm sure they will have a few moving forward as well. I think you might find some unhappy people with you after this race, whether you feel deserved or not, Jared. Are we going to see you again moving forward?
Yeah, for sure. I'm happy to race with any of my teammates. Hopefully I'll be able to get a good teammate and have a good crack at the Enduros. It's always fun racing against some of the best in Australia. So yeah.
All right, thank you very much. Is there anyone else you wanted to thank, or have you pretty much covered them all already?
No, that's all.
All right, thank you very much, Jared. We'll see you next time.
Peace.
Jared Philsell coming back to finish second. That's a very strong drive there from the three-time champion. And the final drive we're going to talk to tonight, third place for Blake Purdy. Blake, this is something you've been threatening to do for quite some time, especially after that mega result at Montreal at the start of the season. How does it feel to finally get a podium, especially fending off the likes of Madison Down?
Yeah, that was certainly one of the most hectic SCOPS races I've had this season. Since Montreal, I've just been lacking in pace and not being able to get up into the top 5 again. But this round just fell into my hands. It was just, I only passed about 4 or 5 cars, and the positions I just kept going up the ranks. But it was really difficult to fend Jared and Madison off in the last few laps. I made a few mistakes, but it was really good. Really happy with P3.
Certainly was a chaotic one, and you were one of the drivers that got knocked about a bit in the midst of everything that was going on there, finishing the race without your bonnet. It's a very difficult track to race on, full stop, but yeah, it turns out that these races, they end up bringing in a whole host of incidents, so you must be happy to still get a podium despite those taps. Yeah,
I did avoid a lot of accidents during that race. Really unfortunate for Andrew. He just got he was just unlucky there, but I nearly ran into Cooper when there was a crash in the second last corner, but I was really lucky to get around the outside of that and made up a few spots there, and then Dave's car came out and I found myself in P5 or whatever. I think it was P5, so yeah, really happy.
Spirits must be high for you going into the Enduros. Who's your teammate for the Enduros, and what are your thoughts on the 3 Endurances coming up?
I don't think we've figured it out yet, but I think I'll be doing it with Job Stewart. Really looking forward to it. First rounds at Phillip Island, I think. So, I better start doing some laps.
Indeed. Get right on it, Blake. Before we let you go, is there anyone that you'd like to thank from your third spot on the podium?
Just pursued sim racing and track racer. Mike from PSR helped me so much this weekend, getting the set ready and working with Andrew to get the set absolutely spot on. So the tyres were really good at the end of that race. So cheers.
That's his second ever podium finish in SCOPS. Last time he finished on the podium was Sebring 2020, where he also got third. A great drive from Blake Purdy. We send our congratulations to him once again. But with the end of that, Ryan, that brings to an end proceedings for SCOPS at Belle Isle. Next up, we get into the endurance races. And if the calendar is correct on my end, I believe Imola is where we're going to be going next. That's going to be a challenge for the drivers.
It will, but it's a track very popular in this series. There's a reason it's used in the Enduro. It's very good to drive in these cars. It flows well over the curbs and the bumps. Very nice circuit as well. And Enduro season, it always brings drama and twists and turns. I think today was just a sneak preview of what we're going to see over the next 3 rounds. It's going to be fun to watch.
Certainly will be, and we certainly hope that you'll be able to join us for that. We're going to have a full field shootout at Imola. Every driver getting a single lap to set their time for the grid. We'll be able to see those brilliant Enduro liveries out there on every single car out there. Can't wait for that. We hope that you can't wait either. It's going to be from the 15th to the 18th of August in a couple of weeks' time here in V8SCOPS. Thank you very much for watching, everyone. All across the world on YouTube, Facebook, Twitch, and Twitter. Big thanks once again to our series sponsors, Virtual Racing School and 2Easy Finance. Certainly got their money's worth here tonight. And a big congratulations must go once again to our podium getters, Jordan Caruso, Jared Filsell, and Blake Purdy. How are things going to go at Imola? Will Jared Filsell be able to put himself up there with his teammate at United Sim Sports? Who's Madison Down going to be paired with? Will he be able to take victories? Will we see some surprises, especially with Synergy Sim Racing, a very strong team in the Enduros, putting together a very good package? We'll find out in a couple of weeks' time here on SimSpeed TV. I'm Reese Gardner, Ryan Jones alongside me, and Jay Kennedy on production. From all of us here, we say thank you for watching once again. We hope you have a good week.
This is fantastic. This is GT racing right now. He's got traction. He's got rhythm. Both of them. Maloney. Oh, he's taking Anderson. Anderson's up top. Oh my God. Big crash. Oh my goodness. Half the field's going to get rolled.
This is very close. These guys I want to make their way through the field very quickly. Oh, there we go. Oh no. That's massive. This is it. This is over. I can't believe this. Oh my God.
God, what?